Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Cabbage Head Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Had Persona Creation Quirk. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. All Might coughed violently, trying desperately to keep his entrails from spilling out as he looked upon the burning school, though the ash-clouded air really didn't help with the damage his lungs had taken. Bodies of students and teachers strewn about. It was straight out of a nightmare. He looked up to see a figure, the one responsible for this, silhouetted by the flames. He summoned every ounce of his power, praying beyond hope that he could save them. 6 years later, Tenya Ida looked around the area. Today was the UA entrance exam, and he was doing pretty well so far. The problem was that his engines were starting to overheat, so his point gain was slowing down. He panted as he leaned up against a nearby wall, so out of breath that he didn't notice the robot creeping up on him until it was too late. Bow bow! Before the robot could strike him though, a flash of pink cleaved it in two, before a similar blue blur destroyed the other robots in the immediate area. Before Ida could even begin to contemplate what had happened, a voice spoke up. "Are you okay, ruffian?" The blue-eyed dog girl asked. Next to her was a similar-looking pink-eyed dog girl. Were they sisters? Ida thought they separated people from the same schools. Yes, I am okay. I thank you for your assistance. Ida replied, chopping his arm. The girls tilted their heads in sync. We always protect the ruffians. The pink-eyed one bowed. Even if they're JRKs like you. The blue-eyed one bowed. Ida sputtered. JRK? Yeah. The blue-eyed one huffed. We were just trying to talk to that shy girl and wish her good luck. Then you came up yelling and made us look bad. Bow bow. The pink-eyed one said sadly. What on earth were they talking about? Ida didn't recall seeing them before now. The only other examinee he had really interacted with was that green-haired girl. Anyway, we gotta go. Take care, ruffian. The blue-eyed one said. Then, both girls began to glow brightly, before merging into one and revealing a red-eyed girl with short, black hair and magnets attached to her head wearing an oversized coat. Ohamono. The girl replied stoically as she moved out into the open, her magnets vibrating as at least a dozen robots were forcefully dragged toward her. When they were all in a pile, she glowed again, turning into a yellow-eyed girl with fiery hair and a white hoodie that showed over her stomach. Intense flames exploded from the girl's hair, melting the robots into a molten pile before the girl took off, leaving Ida baffled. Just what kind of quirk was that? Any students catch your eye, All Might? The mammal of indeterminate origin questioned. A few stand out, but I can't really get a good read on them until I properly train them. I see. That's understandable. And Izumi? All Might sighed. Mike said he had a bit of a confrontation with Ingenium's brother. During the explanation for the practical exam, he called her out for muttering in front of the entire. Keep in mind she was on the other side of the room from him and wasn't even that loud. Mike said Tenma almost came out. She must have been humiliated. We will have to work on young Ida's people skills then. Was that it? Well, apparently young Ida confronted her again just before the exam started. Young Midoriya was going to speak to a young lady she had met outside the school, but apparently young Ida thought she was trying to distract her and called her out again in front of the examinees. At that point Mike said the boy was lucky Tenma didn't come out. Ned's sighed. It seems we have our work cut out for us with young Ida. He needs to learn that he can't go around making assumptions like that. He shook his head. Any other concerns? Katsuki Bakugo has yet to receive a single rescue point. The entire room tensed. They knew Katsuki Bakugo had a bad history with Izumi that culminated in the incident 6 years ago. The two hadn't seen each other since, but the fact was that the test was structured so that you would have to deliberately go out of your way to not help people to avoid getting the hidden rescue points. It did not paint a good picture for the boy, especially since he had a suspiciously clean record from primary school and junior high given his involvement in the incident 6 years ago. Unfortunately, there was a problem. The commission was watching the UA entrance exams closely this year. It wasn't hard to figure out why. The president had been said when All Might had taken young Izumi Midoriya in as his ward 6 years ago, and had brought her to UA to get help with training and schooling, preventing them from getting their claws on the poor girl and her quirk that could take on even All Might. No doubt they would have already taken an interest in Bakugo. He was strong, yes, but he also had a personality that the commission could manipulate in his favor if Nezu tried barring him without an indisputably good reason. And Nezu knew they would take him on even if he brought up his almost certainly falsified record. The only way to keep Bakugo out of the hero course would be for him to do something that would make the public themselves hate him to the point that the commission would lose interest in him on account of being too much of a PR disaster. Between keeping him under UA's roof and at least trying to get him under control, or letting the commission get their hands on him and enable his worst tendencies, Nezu reluctantly had to go with the lesser of two evils. We will make sure he's in Vlad's class. Young Izumi will be in 1A with Ryukyu. It will at least limit their interactions. Because unfortunately, despite not having rescue points, Bakugo had already passed the cutoff point needed to secure his spot in the hero course. Luckily, so had Izumi. It's time to loose the 0-pointers. Nezu cackled. Since it's your first year as a teacher, why don't you do the honors, Yagi-san? Don't mind if I do. The skeletal man responded as he pushed the large button. And just like that, chaos ensued as the students scrambled to get away from the giant machines that had suddenly appeared. Kinoko Komori had gotten knocked down in the rush. It had gotten even worse when the 0-pointers hit a building, getting her pinned underneath some debris. She could only stare up in horror as the giant robot bore down on her. Was this it? She didn't want to die here. Weren't the teachers going to do something? Help! She cried out in panic. Bow bow! The twin cry preceded the 0-pointer's hand getting sliced into pieces by a pair of pink and blue blurs. Don't worry, ruffian. The pink-eyed twin called. We got this. The blue-eyed one called. All of us. They shouted in sync as they began to glow, fusing together to reveal a pink-haired panther woman who leapt up the 0-pointer's damaged arm with cat-like grace. The 0-pointer paused to look at the woman as she appeared in front of its face. Sayora. The woman grinned. And she transformed into a flame-haired girl with a white, cut-off sweatshirt. Abayo. Intense flames exploded from her hair, melting the 0-pointer's head as the behemoth began to shut down. The 0-pointer shifted, and the girl lost her balance, and Kinoko gasped as she stumbled and fell off the monstrosity. She threw her hands out, trying desperately to make a bed of mushrooms to cushion her fall, but she just couldn't make them grow fast enough. There was a flash, and the girl transformed into a white-haired catgirl in a sailor fuku, who promptly slammed into the ground hard enough to crack the concrete. Kinoko stared in horror at the girl's unmoving form, feeling bike riding to her throat. The catgirl held a thumbs up. I'm good. She shouted. She stumbled to her feet, not a single scratch on her body, yet wincing at the intense pain she was in. Frick, that hurts. I'm so sorry, Filian. I panicked. Nah, you're good, bro. Kinoko's horror turned to confusion as the catgirl started talking to herself. Then the alarm blared, signaling the end of the exam. You good, snacker? The catgirl called to Kinoko. I should be asking you that. You just fell 20 stories. Kinoko yelped. Me? Oh yeah, I'm fine. I've been through worse. Filian began to pull the rubble off of Kinoko, revealing the girl's leg was definitely broken. That looks bad. Hang on a sec. In a flash, she had become a young lady with orange and teal hair. Now just hold still. Flames emitted from the woman's hands, but before Kinoko could react, they had already wrapped around her leg. Shockingly, her leg wasn't burned. Instead, the flames actually mended it until it was good as new. That should do it. The woman said brightly, before noticing something. Granny Chio, I already fixed this one up for you. Young lady. Recovery girl's tone of voice had the girl shrink in on herself. Don't think I didn't see that fall just now. Honestly, just as reckless as Tashinori sometimes. But, I'm fine. Filian took the fall dash, the girl tried to explain. Filian may be indestructible, but she can still feel pain. The girl sulked. I couldn't just leave her. She gestured to Kinoko. I met her just before the entrance exam. Not in that form if her face says anything. Indeed, Kinoko was confused as hell, as she didn't recall meeting this girl before. Oh, right. One's to see. In a flash of light, she had reverted into a girl with shoulder-length frizzy hair. This made sense. Kinoko had actually met the green-haired girl and was just seeing her quirk in action. She recalled the green-haired girl saving her from a busted face after Kinoko had tripped on a loose stone. The green-haired girl nervously waved the too long sleeve of her green sweatshirt. We're Izumi Midoriya. Hi. Hi. I'm Kinoko Komori. Kinoko replied just as nervous. Alright, you two. You can flirt later. Please clear out. Recovery girl cackled, causing the two to sputter, red-faced. As she shooed the two back to the bus, Tenya Ida looked on in surprise. The green-haired girl he had written off as a possible delinquent had been the multiple mysterious girls that had been helping people during the exam, even taking down the zero-pointer to protect another examinee. For what? This was a hero school. Yes, they were supposed to fight faux villains, but no self-respecting hero school would ignore good deeds like that. Did this girl figure out some hidden point system? He would need to apologize if they met again. It was clear Tenya had underestimated her cunning. There was no FING way. He had seen a flash of green-haired as someone climbed into the back of a car and was driven away. But it couldn't have been Deku, could it? He was imagining it. It was probably some dumbass with a similar hair color. This was FINGUA. They wouldn't let that FING murderer even set foot here. She was nothing but a villain. He knew he had aced the exam. No doubt about it because it was him. Now began his story to show all these little pebbles how superior he is to them. And on the way, he tracked down FING Deku wherever she was hiding and put her down with his bare hands. Because he was the strongest, and that made him a true hero. The top few floors of Might Tower acted as a living quarters. One such floor housed young Izumi, to help her learn to be able to do things on her own like cooking, cleaning, etc. Of course, the fact that some of the girls' personas essentially acted as cheat codes probably rendered that point moot, but it was the thought that counted. Currently though, she was up on All Might's floor, in the middle of the same morning argument she had held with him for the past 4 years, since she had unlocked a very specific persona. I know your appetite was practically destroyed, but you still need to eat, and relying on nutrient shakes isn't going to help. All it's doing is stagnating your health. The Oni. That Midoriya currently took the appearance of chastised as she lay plate of steamed fish and rice in front of the exasperated symbol of peace. Onigiri. Secretly a grandma, but don't tell her that. The portions were small and the meal was plain, but that was understandable considering the man was missing most of his stomach. Yes, thank you, young Giri. Tashinori sighed, taking a bite under the Oni's glare. Once Giri was satisfied, she transformed back into Izumi, who went to eat her own breakfast. Tashinori couldn't help but wonder if her micromanaging his health was because of guilt from 6 years ago, despite the fact that he had assured the girl it wasn't her fault. He still had the phantom feeling of razor-sharp teeth digging into his side from time to time. The door opened as All Might's assistant walked in. All Might's and the mail is dash. Bow bow bow. She was interrupted as a pair of demon guard dogs leapt from the table to bark at her. Fuwa and Makoko Abyss Guard. Pray they don't become paramedics. The assistant smiled fondly as she held out her hand to let the twins sniff. Yes, yes, you two know me. You're doing a good job protecting the place. Bow bow. The twins wagged their tails. Anyway, this came for you, Midoriya. She held out an oddly bulky envelope. It's from UA. The twins reverted back into the green-haired girl as she excitedly grabbed the envelope, tearing it open. Her face turned to confusion as, instead of a letter, a metallic disc fell out onto the floor, suddenly lighting up to display a holographic video of Nizu. Hello there, young Izumi. Am I a dog? A bear? A mouse? Well, Henya already knows the answer. The principal of UA cackled. While I could inform you of your results in person, this recording is more of a formality. First of all, you passed the written exam with an incredibly rare 100%. The only other student who got close to this kind of score this year was a young lady who took the recommendation exams. Be proud of yourself, young lady. We're lucky to see even 100% every decade. Ay. Izumi let out a noise of happiness. Although I am curious how many of those answers were fed to you from Henya. Izumi suddenly looked uneasy. It's fine though. Considering the nature of your quirk, I personally feel that saying you can't use her would be like me not being allowed to use my own intelligence quirk. As for your practical exam, you've earned 83 villain points. That alone has put you in first place for the entirety of the exam and secured your spot in the hero course. Yes. But wait, there's more. You see, in order to judge the true character of our examinees, we have a second, hidden point system. Izumi tilted her head. Rescue points. For providing aid to your fellow examinees of your own volition. Whether it be saving them from a sneak attack or even just warning them of upcoming danger. The actions of you and your personas throughout the exam alone have netted you 27 rescue points. On top of that, your actions with the zero-pointer, which would have been fatal to anyone else without an indestructible catgirl in their arsenal, have netted you an additional 60 rescue points. Coming up to a grand total of 170 points, surpassing the previous all-time record of 143 points. Congratulations, young lady. This is your hero academia. The previous record? Was that? She turned to look at All Might. That was me. Congratulations, you beat my old record. There was no hint of frustration at that fact. Contrarily, he was so very proud of this young lady. Izumi then turned back to the video, which had paused on a scoreboard of the top 10 examinees. She was right there at the very top. She was pleased to see that nice girl, Kinoko, was in 4th place. Almighty explained that her attempt to save Izumi from her fall, while failing, had still earned her a decent number of rescue points. Then Izumi saw who was in 2nd place, and she nearly felt her heart stop. Henya shifted uneasily within her quirk, but the others were confused at the reaction. Within the deepest parts of Izumi's quirk, someone stirred in anger, struggling against the bindings that held her down. 2nd place, Katsuki Bakugo, 77 villain. 0 rescue. Oh no. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't FNG possible. This was supposed to be his story. He would start it off by dominating the entrance exam and proving his superiority to all those demon extras. But he got FA 2nd? What the F? Were these demon rescue points? Who gives a DMN about rescuing people who can't even protect themselves? Being a hero was about being the strongest, not wasting time on some weak little dumbass who got in the way while he was beating up villains. But the worst part, the absolute worst part, was just who had stolen his rightfully earned first place spot. The FING Deku. It was an impossibility. That beach should have been rotting in the deepest part of Tartarus. But here she was, having the audacity to not just piece all over his story with her presence, but even cheating her way to the first place spot that belonged to him. Eyes filled with murderous rage, the holodisc in his hands was exploded into hundreds of smoldering pieces. Deku. It was a couple of days later that Izumi managed to make time to come to the cemetery. Izumi made her way through the rows of gravestones until she found what she was looking for. Hey Mom, she stated, smiling sadly as she laid the flowers down. So, we got into UA. We even got first place in the entrance exam. We even beat All Might's record. She sat down in front of the grave. Bakugo got in too. Nizu and All Might said it was unavoidable because of the commission, but they're doing what they can to make sure we interact as little as possible. Bakugo's going to be in a different class. She sat there, idly speaking to the grave for about an hour. Well, I gotta go, Mom. But I promise I'll come visit soon. Izumi stated as she stood up. Bye, Mom. I love you. She doesn't deserve it. And Izumi clutched her head. No. Be quiet. She groaned as she stumbled away. She left the graveyard. Maybe some training would take her mind off things as her first day at UA approached. Tenya Ida looked around the empty classroom. It seemed he was the first one here. Were the rest of his classmates not taking this seriously? This was you. They should always be at least 5 minutes early. He glanced at the seat assignments written on the whiteboard and moved over to his assigned seat. After setting his stuff down, he looked over to the girl was here before him. At least she was taking this seriously. Somewhat. Excuse me. Ida chopped his hand as he walked over to the blonde girl. Why are you not in uniform? This is incredibly disrespectful to UA as an institution. Outfits change with my personas. The girl explained. Amelia Watson. Number 0715. What? Ida asked in confusion. In a flash, she had become the green-haired girl from the exam, who was indeed wearing the UA school uniform, albeit the tie looked atrocious. See, my personas all have their own outfits. I see. Even so, you shouldn't be using your quirk willy-nilly dash. The personas are sentient. The girl held up a card. A sentient quirk license. Sentient quirks had a bit more leeway in how they could act. A law that the commission only put forward because the WHA forced it to. Basically, Izumi's personas could come out whenever they wanted as long as they didn't start throwing their powers around. Regardless, I have been meaning to talk to you about the entrance exam dash. In a flash, a white-haired fox girl was glaring at him. Choose your next words carefully, motherfucker. Tenma Mimi. No talk me. Ing. Ida shuddered. Something told him that lecturing this specific aspect of the girl's quirk was a bad idea. I simply wish to apologize for how I dismissed you during the exam. That you managed to figure out the rescue point system proves that you were clearly the more prepared of us. Tenma reverted back to a confused Midoriya. You're mistaken. We didn't know about the rescue points until we got our letter. We were helping those people because they needed help. Isn't that what a hero's supposed to do? After a moment of silence, Ida bowed at an angle that probably wasn't good for his spine. You are absolutely correct. It is clear that you are superior in your heroic nature. I will strive uphold your example. That's a bit much. I am Tenya Ida. He spoke loudly, chopping his hands. It kinda reminded Izumi of a robot. In a flash, a girl with brown, pink highlighted hair had replaced the green-haired girl. Hello, Bo. She greeted, mimicking Ida's chopping and giggling. Oh wow. This one's new. Roboko. Between her and Aegis, who do you think would win? New. Yeah. Sometimes I unlock new personas to turn into. She said brightly. Okay. The class began to fill up as more students came in. A few definitely stood out. There was the pink-skinned girl who seemed to bounce with endless energy. B would like her. There was also an invisible girl. No, wait, if she was invisible, how would she be able to see? Most likely her quirk was some kind of light refraction. Izumi would discuss it with her later. Anyway, the girl exaggerate her movements, as if she wanted to draw attention. There was also a white-haired girl. She slouched forward with her hands out like a ghost. Izumi should introduce her to Mint and Doki. The short boy with purple ball on his head gave Izumi a bad vibe. Best to avoid him. Then there was that silver-haired boy with sharp teeth calling everyone manly. That boy with the big lips smelled like sugar and baking powder. Was he a baker? Izumi would introduce him to Giri. There was Kinoko. Hey Kinoko. Roboko reverted back to Izumi as she jumped up. I'm so glad you got in. The brown-haired girl was of course startled. F first name? Kinoko was red-faced. Yeah. Aren't we friends now? If you don't want us to call you that dash. No. It's fine. Kinoko squeaked. The pink-haired girl looked between the two of them, then got a look on her face. Heya. My name's Mina. She said brightly. Oh. We're GU Izumi Midoriya. The WHIT green-haired girl responded TLSLPPING CHIFLORHAPPLY she didn't have a tail? Ah. Izumi clutched her head. Hey. Are you okay? Mina asked worriedly. People were staring in confusion and worry. We're okay. Just need to sit down for a minute. And so, in spite of Izumi's classmates looking worried, she simply sat down to gather her thoughts, the voices in her head, her other selves, offering comfort. Finally, Ryukyu walked in, and the class was in awe at the fact that their homeroom teacher was the number 9 hero in all of Japan. Ryukyu was kind to the class, asking them to follow her, as they would be going to orientation, after which she had a few things planned for them. Ida and a tall girl with a black ponytail expressed worry about Izumi, but she assured them she was fine. It was something that comes and goes, and recovery girl wouldn't be much help. Ryukyu did whisper a couple of things to Izumi, to which the green-haired girl transformed back into Roboko and remained that way for the duration of orientation. Ida wanted to say something about it, but he figured Ryukyu had given Izumi permission. Orientation was interesting. Their principal was a small chimera of sorts who apparently had 6, formerly 7 until 2 merged, cults in his name. But the most exciting part was the Hero Corps students finding out All Might would be their heroics teacher. After orientation was over, they returned to the classroom, where Ryukyu gave them all gym uniforms and asked them to change and meet out on the field. Midoriya, are you sure you're okay? Ashido asked as the girls were all changing. We're just fine, Izumi stated brightly. But I'm curious about something. The ponytail girl spoke up. My name is Momo Yaoyorozu. Nice to meet you, Izumi responded. What are you curious about? Well, I've noticed your tendency to refer to yourself with plural pronouns, but when you turn into that other you use singular pronouns. Oh, that's because turning into our personas temporarily stabilizes our mind, Izumi said brightly, pulling on her jacket. We should go. We don't want to keep sensei waiting. She began to walk towards the door as her speechless classmates stared. Midoriya I said I'm fine. Izumi suddenly snapped, eyes flashing red briefly before returning to their normal green as the girl smiled and left. All right kids, gather around. Ryukyu called to the students. You're all probably wondering what we're doing. You're all going to be performing a series of assessments so that I can get a read on your capabilities. These will be much like the ones you did in junior high. However, there is one key difference. You are all allowed to use your quirks for these tests. Keep in mind that while your quirks will improve your scores in some tests, it may hinder you in others. She waited as the class chattered excitedly at being able to use their quirks so freely. As they calmed down, Ryukyu spoke up again. Yes, I know being able to use your quirks is exciting. However, keep in mind that once you start going out into the field, you'll be holding people's lives in your hands. Natural disasters, villain attacks. People will be looking to you all to protect them, not to goof off and treat things like a game. She waited a moment for that to sink in, before holding up the ball. Midoriya, why don't you go first? All right. Izumi changed into Roboko. Perfect time to test out this new persona. She excitedly grabbed the ball, jumped into the circle, drew her hand back, and threw with all her might. Phew-uck! The girl with jacks coming out of her earlobes screamed, holding her ears at the sonic boom generated from Roboko's throw. Others were trying to get their ears to stop ringing. Oops. Sorry. New persona. I don't know how strong she is yet. Roboko explained. Earphone girl pulled her hands back to show her ears were bleeding. Let me fix that. Before anyone could react, she had transformed and Earphone girl was engulfed in fire as her classmates screamed. Said screaming turned to confused noises as the fire dissipated to show Earphone girl was perfectly fine, her ears having been healed as she blinked owlishly. All better? The now orange-haired girl asked. Takanashi Kiera. Shitty bird, even shittier boss. I'm good. Good. Kiera chirped before reverting back into Roboko, who turned to Ryukyu. So how far did it go? Ryukyu held up the phone to reveal the score. 10,178 kilometers. It left the country? Yaoyorozu squeaked. Hopefully nobody got hurt. Meanwhile, it's over Ricky Rat. Give up now and I'll go easy on you. Kathleen Bate, also known as Star and Stripe, the US's number 1 hero, ordered. The small, white rat man in blue overalls cackled. Give up? Give up? I'm this close to my media empire. Children everywhere already bow to my movies. Soon I'll rule the dash. The man twitched as the ball moving at hypersonic speed struck him in the jaw. After a second, he collapsed to the ground, unconscious and with a shattered jaw. A random ball from nowhere moving at hypersonic speeds? Star mused. Izumi must be showing off her quirk. Good for her. Back in Japan. After that, the class continued on with the tests. Riboko practically dominated all of the tests, to the chagrin of some people. The 50-meter dash? Passed within 3/4 of a second. The grip test? She accidentally crushed the machine, so Ryukyu just put down yes. The standing long jump? Riboko left a small crater from the intensity of takeoff as she disappeared over the horizon, leaving the students speechless. She reappeared a couple of minutes later, proclaiming she had crashed into Hawks partway through. He did give her his autograph through, and Riboko in turn gave back the feathers he had accidentally left of her person. He seemed dejected about that for some reason. Either way, Ryukyu just put down another yes. Side steps? She moved so fast it left the ground scorched and the purple ball boy shrieking about how unfair it was. Seated toe touch? Apparently she had extendable arms, so Ryukyu gave her another yes. Sit-ups? Endurance run? Also yes. So it was no surprise to see Izumi's name in first place when Ryukyu showed them the scoreboard. Mineta. Ryukyu suddenly spoke up, startling the purple ball boy. Don't think I didn't see how you were leering at your female classmates. UA has zero tolerance to bullying, discrimination, and harassment of any kind. This is your only warning. And with that, she moved to dismiss the class. Midoriya, could you stay behind? Ryukyu asked. Is everything okay, sensei? Izumi asked with a tilt of her head. Nothing's wrong. I just want you to redo the exercises in your other forms, as well as your base form so I can get a good idea where they stand. In the end, Henya got last place. Though to be fair, she did collapse from exhaustion during the seated toe touch. Obviously a genius of her caliber was saving her energy for later. There she is, Fumi. Over there. Izumi blinked at the black shadow, thing that had dragged the bird boy, Tokoyami, over to her. Oh, hello. Izumi said brightly. My apologies. Dark Shadow insisted on seeing you. She's like us. But better. Dark Shadow replied in reverence. She is fascinated by the nature of your quirk. Because our quirk is sentient. It's true then. Now Tokoyami looked interested. Each one of our personas has a mind of their own. When we bring them out, we're temporarily merging our mind with theirs. How interesting. Would it be alright if we walked with you? To meet someone else with a sentient quirk is a great rarity for us. Sure. Then Izumi spotted someone. Hey Kinoko. Come walk with us. The mushroom girl squeaked in surprise as Izumi dragged her over excitedly. They were followed by the spooky girl from earlier, Yanagi. I am too curious about your quirk. She explained. You seem to have multiple personalities attached to it. By any chance do any of them veer into the realm of terror? Izumi tilted her head. We've got a ghost in here. There was a flash. Hello. The admittedly adorable ghost girl replied. Mint Phantom. Kept you waiting, huh? That is more cute than terrifying. Yanagi admitted. Oh, trust me. You haven't seen what I can do. Grinned. Fair enough. Oh, there's a Baku in here too if dash. Out of my way extras. Mint jumped at the snarling voice as the blonde boy shoved his way through them, completely ignoring that there was more than enough space to walk around them. Wow. What a d-dashed. Dark Shadow mused as Bakugo turned the corner and disappeared. In a flash, Mint reverted into Izumi, who was on the verge of hyperventilating. Oh, thank God. She wheezed. Do you know him? Kinoko asked. It's complicated. Bakugo and I haven't spoken in like 6 years, so dash. That was Bakugo? Izumi clutched her head as all the personas she had obtained since she last saw Bakugo, pretty much everyone except Henya and Redacted, flew into an uproar. All of you calm down. I'm getting a headache. The green-haired girl whined. Once they had all settled down, she shook her head. Anyway, if he found out I'm attending you, he'd flip. If you have not spoken in 6 years, I do not see how what you do with your life is any of his business. Try telling him that. Years of therapy have taught me that Bakugo is a violent, egotistical narcissist. The only reason he's been allowed in this school in the first place is because Principal Nedzu said he wants to try and curb Bakugo's negative traits, and that he's afraid booting him out might cause the commission to get a hold of him. The lesser of two evils then. Tokoyami spoke somberly. Unlike most people, he had faced more than enough discrimination to know the commission wasn't anywhere close to the good guys they presented themselves as. Still, it doesn't seem fair. Why does Bakugo hate you exactly? Yanagi asked. There was an incident with my quirk when I was younger. I don't feel comfortable talking about it. The group agreed to leave that subject be. Before they continued on though, there was another interruption. Hi. Excuse me. The girl had short brown hair, a blush on her cheeks, and pink pads on her fingers. Have you guys seen a grumpy blonde kid around? Probably calling everyone extras? Surprised, they all pointed her in Bakugo's direction. Thanks, she said brightly as she ran off. Izumi was confused, but pushed it to the back of her mind as they continued on. She couldn't wait to tell All Might about the friends she made. All Might looked over the class with an analytical eye. All but young Izumi, who had spent 6 years as his ward, were all looking at him with awe and reverence. Honestly, while before he had taken young Izumi, he had taken the near worship of the masses in stride, now it made him somewhat uncomfortable. Especially after the incident with Night Eye. Young Togata had been so distressed. All Might grinned at the class. I'm glad to see you're all so excited. I've got a real treat planned for today. He pressed a button as the nearby wall opened up. But first, you'll need these. Naturally, the children were excited at getting to wear their costumes for the first time. Now then, change into these and meet me at Ground Beta. With that, he turned and rushed off, getting to Ground Beta's control room where multiple monitors had been set up. He made sure it was only him in the room, before relaxing back into his skeletal form with a sigh, rubbing at the massive scar on his left side, flesh healed jaggedly from the razor-sharp teeth that had ripped out his lung and most of his stomach. He switched through the cameras until they showed the building he was planning to use. So what are we doing today? Izumi asked, suddenly right next to him. All Might, having had 6 years to get used to her antics, didn't even flinch. Now, young lady, you'll have to wait until the rest of the class is present. Training you is one thing, but I don't want to be accused of favoritism now, do I? Izumi pouted. Her costume was fairly basic. A dark green jumpsuit with armored padding with gloves and boots. It's not like she had any reason to go all out on the design co-spidering her quirk. All Might was happy to note that she had taken his advice on being very specific on how she wanted her costume, so it wasn't sexualized or too form-fitting, with the armor padding covering a good deal. He had warned her how support companies tended to take liberties on costumes when not given clear and specific instructions. Izumi asked if a company would outright ignore instructions. Nedzu laughed and assured her that the company's UA was partnered with New Better after what happened last time. Izumi didn't want to ask. Bibu and Bei tried to ask. So, by the way, you may want to take a look at Hagekyure's costume. Why, what's wrong with it? He pulled up the costume files. He hadn't gotten a chance to look yet due to how busy he'd been with the new teaching position. Then he saw Hagekyure's costume. Or rather, lack of costume. Hagekyure had requested something that would work with her quirk. The company just sent her gloves and boots. Not even a jumpsuit. He would have to talk to Power Loader about this. How did this even slip by him? Either way, he mused as he muscled up in anticipation for the rest of the students. The girl should at least have enough common sense to come to class buck but naked. Turns out, she did not. Young Hagekyure, are you naked? Yeah. She surprisingly didn't seem bothered about it. I mean, it's fine, right? My quirk means nobody can see anything. Regardless of your quirk and how you feel about it, All Might sighed. It doesn't not change the fact that you are a 15-year-old girl running around without any clothes on. Not only is it ethically wrong and violates more than a few regulations, but you are completely vulnerable to attacks and the elements. Also, you might run into someone whose quirk allows them to see you, so you'd be giving them an eyeful. Izumi spoke up. That too. All Might nodded. Please go change into your gym uniform. That will have to do until we can get you a proper costume. As well as let Nedzu tear apart the support company that practically told an underage girl to run around ND. The rest of the class arrived. All Might could tell their costumes would need some work. Yaoyorozu would need something that would work better with her quirk without exposing so much skin. Zippers perhaps? Young Ida's armor was more geared towards aerodynamics rather than protection, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. He had designed it to work best with his quirk. The problem was that, according to Ryukyu's notes on the QAT, it took him a few seconds to get up to top speed, so he would be vulnerable in those precious seconds. Also, his joints were exposed. Perhaps the support course could come up with a strong yet light replacement for his current material, as well as something flexible to protect his joints. Young Tetsu has almost nothing protecting his upper body. While his quirk was defense-oriented, it wouldn't matter if he was caught by surprise, since he couldn't keep his quirk constantly active. Young Todoroki, what the hell even was that? On top of that, the students seemed to veer more towards looks than actual protection. He'd have young Izumi come up with some fixes. In the meantime, class, I know you're all excited to get right into the thick of it, which is why I have a special class prepared today. He gestured towards the monitors. Stealth trials. Class seemed confused. Not as excited as I was expecting. We think they were hoping to start fighting. Izumi pointed out. Ah. All Might nodded. Raise your hand if you feel confident in being able to control your quirk. Most of the class raised their hands. Now raise your hands if you feel confident using your quirk on another person. Most of the class lowered their hands, suddenly looking uncomfortable. Izumi he could understand, but Todoroki? Young Ida, does your quirk allow you to empower your kicks? Yes, sensei. That is correct. Ida chopped his hand. Izumi turned into Roboko and mimicked him. But can you control the power behind those kicks to avoid taking someone's head off? Ida sputtered, the class at a loss for words. Control. It is a skill vital to all heroes. You must understand how much force a person's body can reasonably take. I myself must always pull my punches to avoid killing. Villains. I've met very few who could withstand my full power punches. That is why it will be some time before we go into full quirk-based combat. The purpose behind today's exercise is to avoid confrontation entirely. The matchups will be 1 against 3. 1 hero infiltrating, and 3 villains protecting a folder containing vital information. The goal of the hero is to sneak into the villain's base, retrieve this folder, and escape, without alerting the villains to your presence. You may all use your quirks as needed, but direct confrontation will lead to an automatic loss for the hero. You will all take turns as the infiltrator. He grinned at them. Now, let's find out who's with who. Midoriya, Yaoyorozu, and Komori versus Tokoyami. Ooh. We have a plan. Izumi cried happily as they stood in one of the top rooms of the building. There was a large wooden table between the 3 of them. Okay then Midoriya, what's your plan? Yaoyorozu asked, unsure. There was a flash. Oh heyo, came a timid squeak as yellow eyes swirled in discomfort. I'm Henya. Henya the genius. The author's Kami-ashi. Nice to meet you Henya-san. Yaoyorozu greeted. You have a plan? Why, I have a plan Deo. She pumped her fists. I talked it over with the voices in my head. The voices? Tamashika and Mano thought it was great. Filion tried to add stuff but it just turned into a mess. Tenma-chan just stood near the back bullying Pippa over that song she made a while back, but I thought it was a fun song Deo. She tilted her head. So don't you talk to the voices in your head too? Midoriya, I don't have voices in my head. Yaoyorozu sighed. How do you function Deo? Like a normal person. She honestly hadn't meant anything by it. She just figured that, the kind of person Midoriya seemed to be, she would laugh it off. The look on Henya's face told her this wasn't the case. Midoriya, I didn't dash. There was several flashes as Midoriya cycled through her forms, finally settling on her base form. Crash. Yaoyorozu scrambled back as Izumi, eyes red and teeth razor sharp, bit down on the wooden with so much force that it practically exploded, shards of wood flying all over the place as Kinoko moved back, afraid and unsure. Midoriya stepped forward, a dark red aura around her body. "You're no better." Something spoke from Midoriya's mouth, the low growl of a predator. "You're no effing better dash." Young Midoriya. All Might was there, grabbing Izumi by the shoulders as he tried to hold her back. "Young Midoriya, calm down. I'm normal. I'm normal. El Nigeria Naira O." And Midoriya. Kinoko squeaked. At once, the deadly aura flipped off, Izumi, eyes and teeth normal again, blinked, rubbing her head. I. Yaoyorozu blinked back tears as she tried to get her heart rate and breathing under control. "I think it might be best if young Yaoyorozu works with a different team." All Might sighed. He led Yaoyorozu out of the building. "But I didn't mean to." "I know you didn't. You're not in any trouble, young lady," All Might assured. "Young Midoriya, she had a very rough childhood, and I fear you accidentally pushed a sensitive button." "Did you know Midoriya? Personally?" "I never saw her at the recommendation exam. She wished to become a hero on her own merit, which is why I ask you not go telling people about there being a connection between us." Yaoyorozu nodded, feeling numb. "All Might, if you hadn't stepped in, would she have?" There was silence, then All Might sighed. "Some of her personas aren't nearly as forgiving as the others, and the one you caught a glimpse of, she was suppressed for a reason. But as you've probably seen the past couple of days, she's still powerful enough to partially manifest. And, if fully manifested, she would be able to take complete control. But if she did manifest completely, you'd stop her, right?" Yaoyorozu asked, unsure. "I would try, but in the end I would lose." It was impossible. Was All Might really saying that Midoriya was even more powerful than him? He knelt down, clasping a large hand on her shoulder. "Make no mistake, young lady, I have known Izumi Midoriya for 6 years, and despite all this, she is a kind person who genuinely wants to be a hero to help and protect people. Please don't let what happened today make you think otherwise. She's only had her other selves for so long." "Okay." They returned to the observation room. The class was not as worried as she would have expected. Apparently All Might had shut off the monitor the second Yaoyorozu had said that dreaded line before rushing over, so they had no idea what had happened. Yaoyorozu assured them that things had just gotten a little heated and that All Might felt they might not work well together, so he sent Kaminari to take her place. The end result was Tokoyami getting a face full of mushroom spores, which caused him to lose it, run around the building, and finally trip an electric tripwire Midoriya had Kaminari set up. Hagakure probably would have won her round, if she had been allowed to remove her clothing. All Might comforted her and went on to the next round. Aoyama was so flashy and loud that he hadn't even made it to the building, even with All Might giving Jiro a handicap that said only noises above a certain limit was considered caught. On the other hand, Jiro won her round. Todoroki got an instant fail when he decided to freeze over the entire building. He had tried to argue with All Might by saying he had incapacitated the villains, only for All Might to point out that the point of the exercise was to not engage the villains, and that, for all he knew, one of them could have a quirk that could counter his ice and break out easily to destroy the files as to prevent Todoroki from getting them. Yaoyorozu's villain team lost, though that was mostly Mineta's fault. The standout was when Midoriya got to play hero. The villain team was Todoroki, Sato, and Shoji. All Might started the match. Then promptly and in a very exasperated tone, called Midoriya the winner barely 5 seconds later. Todoroki did a double take. He had been clutching the files in his hand, yet now they were gone. "What the F dash? What just happened?" Jiro asked. Did Midoriya even enter the building?" Hagakure asked. Then the door opened. "Too easy." The blonde-haired girl grinned. "Dokabird. Secretly a tomato. No, I'm not making that up." "High five." Doki held up her hand. "Yeah." She promptly changed to Mint, who high-fived herself. Probably should have told her not to use Doki for the sake of fairness, All Might thought. But she seems to have cheered up from earlier, so I'll leave it be. Let me say this. To those of you who failed, Don't let this discourage you. After all, your training has only just begun. You still have 3 years to improve and learn. He glanced at the clock. And it would seem class is about over. You're all dismissed. Now watch me speed away like a hero. There was a massive gust of wind as All Might blitzed out of the testing area and into an elevator. As the doors shut, he pulled back into his skeletal form. He had strained himself rushing to stop the potential maiming of young Yaoyorozu, and had practically reached his limit for the day. He just needed to get to the teacher's lounge and rest. Dry, cracked hands held the newspaper aloft as red eyes stared at the headlines. All Might, a teacher, the raspy-voiced man grinned, dry lips cracking at the strain. He glanced at the misty man standing behind the bar, then at the hellhound woman at a nearby table. Hey, what do you think would happen if the symbol of peace just died? Excuse me, you're a student, right? What can you tell us about All Might as a teacher? Kinoko stumbled back as the microphone nearly hit her nose. When she woke up for school this morning, she was not expecting to be accosted by a crowd of reporters right outside of UA's gates. He's pretty good, but it's obvious he's still new. Oh God, someone help her. It's obviously a commission ploy to cover up their secret hero training program. Everyone blinked, turning to look at the rose-haired rabbit girl suddenly standing next to Kinoko. Pipkin Pippa. https UDA-BED7U_upfage60 SINHBS 1 PUQ note. This is a re-upload cause she private the original post. One of the reporters tried. I mean, think about it. Hawks is way too good for someone his age. And there's no record of what hero school he trained at. The only logical explanation is that the commission is secretly training heroes that are loyal only to them in order to establish as much control over the country as they possibly can without drawing the World Heroes Association's attention. Everyone just stared at her, dumbfounded beyond belief. Anyway, we gotta get to school. See ya. With that, Pippa grabbed Kinoko by the hand and dragged her through the gate. In a flash, Izumi had replaced her. Midoriya, what was that? Kinoko asked. HM? What was what? Whole conspiracy theory thing. Izumi blinked. What conspiracy theory? Pippa speaks nothing but the truth. Okay. God damn it, now we need to cut that footage. One reporter complained. We can't have some chicks spouting nutcase theories like that on TV. It'll ruin our reputation. First order of business. Ryukyu looked around the classroom. Yesterday you had your first practical heroics class. Some of you did really well for your first time. As for the others, don't worry. You've got 3 years of training ahead of you. Now, that being said, I want to make one thing clear. The woman felt a headache coming on. Heroism is a serious occupation. You will be holding the lives of other people in your hands. That is why you are to give your all above all else. Here at UA, we will not accept you limiting yourself for whatever reason. It is an insult to both the profession and the people who work hard to uplift it, and it needlessly puts lives at risk. Most of the class were confused by their sensei's words, except for Todoroki. Even if she wasn't speaking to him specifically, he knew the words were aimed at him, if his glare was anything to go by. Now! She clapped her hands. We need you to pick your class representatives. You're free to do so in any way you choose as long as it's not death matches in while wearing clown costumes. The class sweat dropped at that oddly specific rule. They decided to just vote, with the condition being that you couldn't vote for yourself. 10 minutes later, Class Rep, Izumi Midoriya. Vice Rep, Momo Yaoyorozu. Momo fidgeted as she stood next to Midoriya. Ryukyu couldn't blame her. All Might had informed her of the incident yesterday. We're so happy to know you all trust us so much. Izumi said brightly. We'll try to live up to your expectations. And like that, class continued on like normal. Soon, it was time for lunch. Yaoyorozu caught Midoriya as she was heading to the bathroom. And Midoriya, about yesterday, please understand I honestly didn't mean to dash. It's fine. Yaoyorozu blinked. Midoriya's eyes flickered red. But you probably should avoid interacting with us too much. For your own safety. She walked away, and Yaoyorozu blinked. Nay. The natto pack went flying. Moko-chan, Fuoa giggled as she pulled out another pack. It's good for you. Nay. Just a little bite. No. The rest of the table only stared. For some reason, Midoriya insisted on eating her lunch as her personas. Kinoko, Yanagi, and Tokoyami figured it had to do with that Bakugo prick who was sitting with the brown-haired girl and the red-haired knockoff Tetsutetsu. The spectacle was suddenly cut off by the loud blaring of an alarm. Fuoa and Makoko began whining and Benji as students began panicking, crowding towards the exits. One older student told them that someone had broken into campus. After a few moments of being nearly crushed by the wave of students, Izumi had enough and switched personas. All of you shut the F up. The cried-up students were startled into silence at the sight of a small fox girl screaming her head off. How old are you F idiots? 8? Some of you are third years and in the hero course. If you're gonna react this way to a F alarm, then get the F out of this school. There was silence as everyone stared in disbelief. Then Ida spoke up. Everyone. It is merely the press. Indeed, just outside the window they could see the reporters that had been lingering outside of the gates being escorted off campus by the police. The students began to awkwardly dispersing. Tenma huffed, before she noticed a familiar red-eyed, spiky-haired blonde staring at her. What? You got a FNG problem? Tenma snapped. Bakugo sneered. Teeth, whatever. He huffed as he left. Once she was sure he was gone, she reverted back to Izumi with a sigh. As she made her way back to the cafeteria, she saw a door open, Aoyama slipping out. Aoyama? The boy jumped. Midoriya. As shining as ever, ma chérie. What were you doing in the teacher's lounge? I was merely trying to escape the crowd. I had not intended to end up there. He waved her off, not looking in the eye and sparkling a bit more than usual. Would you be a dear and not tell the teachers? I have a feeling they won't be as understanding. Ta-da! He walked away. Izumi transformed into Amelia Watson, who narrowed her eyes in suspicion. It was the end of the week when Ryukyu informed them they would be doing a special heroics class. They were all piled into a bus and were taken to the far end of the campus. Midoriya. Azui suddenly spoke up. Yes, Azui? Karo, call me Tsu-chan. Only if you call us Izumi. These terms are perfectly acceptable. They shook hands, to the bemusement of the rest of the class. Anyway, I'm someone who prefers to say what's on my mind. Your quirk is weird, Karo. We prefer the term, broken AF. Makes sense. Hey, so, Kaminari spoke up. How many other yous are there? We call them personas. And we currently have 22 unlocked. Izumi said brightly. What do you mean by unlocked? Ashido asked. There are many other personas in our quirk, but we can only use some of them right now. The rest become available over time. The ones we can't use right now are sleeping, for lack of a better term. Oh, kinda like that old American cartoon Ben 10. Ashido exclaimed. Yes. Exactly. So how exactly do you unlock new personas? Izumi just shrugged. There's not exactly a set requirement. Sometimes they just randomly unlock. Sometimes it's in response to the current situation. Sometimes it's how we're behaving at the time. We unlocked Henya in our sleep and woke up as her. That was when our quirk first manifested. We were 8 years old when that happened. You manifested your quirk at 8? Ida chimed in. It is true that late bloomers do happen, but in those cases quirks usually manifest at 5 or 6 at the latest. Geez, must have been rough. Spending all those years waiting. Tetsu responded. We were misdiagnosed as quirkless. Izuku said. There was a stunned silence among the bus. Holy shit, Midoriya, I'm sorry about that. Kaminari spoke up. We're normal. Izumi stated, eyes briefly flickering red. Wasn't saying you weren't. Good. Izumi said brightly. Even so, the class knew how bad things had gotten for those without powers to call their own in recent years, especially in a conformist society like Japan. For Midoriya to have been misdiagnosed as quirkless can't have been easy. Do you need something, Aoyama? Izumi asked, turning towards the boy who had been staring intently at her since the reveal, transforming into Amelia Watson as she did so. Simply admiring your shining attitude, mademoiselle, he said quickly, turning away. Amelia looked at him suspiciously. Then she suddenly turned back to the bus, turning back into Izumi. "'Kay, so, just putting this out here, just in case, but we're gay, so..." "Yeah." Izumi shrugged. Mineta pouted. "So, you call them personas, right?" Sato spoke up, trying to diffuse the awkward atmosphere. "Guess that makes sense, they all got their own personalities and all." "Yeah, like that angry fox chick," Kaminari said. "Tenma's actually really sweet. She just also happens to have a pretty short fuse." Izumi explained. "You got any guy personas in there?" Ashido asked out of curiosity. "Not that we know of." Izumi shrugged. The bus slowed to a stop just outside of a large facility. "All right, everyone. We're here." Ryukyu spoke up. "Welcome to the USJ. So you can cut off the entire facility from the main campus." Tamura Shigaraki asked, leering at the man. "Yeah. My electrical quirk can interfere with the communication system and even disable the alarms. Not even Wi-Fi will work." The masked villain explained. "Unless they have some kind of quirk that can allow them to access the internet directly. But you'd only see someone like that in support." "Good." He grinned. "Kurogyri, tell everyone to get ready." He then turned to the woman standing nearby. "I don't need you to come." "Sorry, buddy. Your sensei says I have to protect you at all times," she said sweetly. "You have a problem, take it up with him." "Tisich," Shigaraki grunted, waiting for Kurogyri to give the green light. Ryukyu led the class into the building, Izumi bouncing on her heels as she and the rest of the class looked around in wonder. "Hello, children." The poofy form of 13 stepped up to the group. "Welcome to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. This J for short. The purpose of this facility is to simulate disasters for the purpose of rescue training," she explained as Ryukyu walked up. "Where's All Might?" she whispered. "Ah, Recovery Girl just called." "Recovery Girl's infirmary." Tashinori heaved, blood splattering the bucket he was given as he retched painfully, clutching at his agonized side. It had happened from time to time. His injury would flare up to the point he could barely move from all the pain. Midoriya micromanaging his health meant it didn't happen that often, but it still happened. And this time it had happened at the worst possible time. He had been so excited to introduce the kids to rescue training. It had taken all of his willpower to let the other heroes deal with the incidents he had passed along the way, just so he could make it in time. Then this. It is a shame, I will admit. Nedzu passed him a special tea blend Nimi had come up with for this kind of thing. But you heard Chio. You will simply have to take it easy today. I must admit though, I am quite proud of how committed you are to your new role as a teacher. Tashinori chuckled, immediately regretting it as it sent shocks of pain through his body. I suppose young Midoriya has been a good influence. He retched some more blood into the bucket. Oh yes. If not for her, I would have expected you to burn through your time limit stopping petty crimes before even getting to school. Yeah. Tashinori sighed. I suppose it can't be helped. Ryukyu sighed. 13 went to address the class. All Might told me he brought this up during your first class, but I just want to make sure to hammer it in. 13 lifted her hand. My quirk is called Black Hole. I can SCK up and disintegrate matter at an atomic level. Perfect for clearing debris in rescue operations. However, if I'm not careful, it can seriously injure or even kill someone. That is why control is so essential to this kind of work. Today I hope to teach you to dash. The air shifted. 13 paused, before whirling around as a cloud of purple smoke began to manifest in the plaza. A dried, crusty hand that was in desperate need of moisturizer clawed its way out of the mist, revealing a young adult with light blue hair, covered in hands, red eyes glaring at them behind a makeshift hand mask. Alongside him stood a hellhound woman and a misty man who was likely the source of the expanding vortex behind them. 3 creatures stepped out, eyes staring blankly ahead and brains exposed. After that, a small army of people followed. Wait, are we starting already? Tetsu asked, confused. I thought we were doing rescues dash. Stay back. Ryukyu stepped in front of them. Those are real villains. I see 13 and Ryukyu, but All Might does not appear to be present. The Mist Man spoke up. Kurojairi. Secretly Oboro Shirakumo. The handman scratched his neck in irritation. How annoying. I went through all the trouble of putting this little welcoming party together, and All Might doesn't even show. Maybe if we kill a few kids it'll draw him out. Tamura Shigaraki. Secretly Tenko Shimura. Hey, don't be too hasty. We don't know their quirks and I don't want to think about what your sensei will do to me if you get hurt on my watch. The Hellhound woman spoke. Cinder. Secretly. A beach. 13, get everyone out of here now. Ryukyu ordered. Her body changed, growing and shifting into the large form of a dragon. She took to the skies, lunging toward the three she assumed to be in charge. However, two of the brain creatures suddenly leapt at her, grappling her and proving to be stronger than they looked. The Mist Man suddenly manifested himself in front of the fleeing class, blocking the exit. Greetings, we are the League of Villains. He spread his mist out to appear more intimidating. I apologize for our sudden intrusion, however, we have come to kill the symbol of peace, All Might. Though it would appear he is not present. Nevertheless, we will ensure he at least feels the weight of today. Not happening, bub. 13 shouted as she activated her quirk. Kurojairi recoiled, eyes narrowing as he opened a set of portals. Before anyone could react, 13's suit was shredded open, blood flying before she was able to deactivate her quirk. She stumbled, before a jet of flames engulfed her. Kurojairi reared back as the flames dissipated. 13's costume was still damaged, but it was clear she was no longer injured. Thank you, Midoriya, she said to Kiera. A healing quirk. That makes you a nuisance. Kurojairi lunged. Izumi transformed into Roboko, whose arm turned into a cannon. Kurojairi narrowly dodged the powerful beam of energy, expanding his mist to cover the class, making absolutely sure Midoriya was covered as a large chunk of the group vanished, 13 and a few others managing to pull away. Ida. 13 hissed. Listen. I'm going to distract this guy. You get out of here. Get back to the school and tell the teachers what's going on. Beep. I can't just abandon you all dash. You're not. You're not abandoning us. You're making a strategic retreat to get backup. Do you understand? Twice. I'll try, sensei. You really shouldn't discuss your strategies in front of your enemies. Kurojairi lunged. Kinoko grunted as she slammed into the deck of the boat, Tetsu crashing alongside her. Then she saw a familiar figure fall into the villain-infested water. Izumi! The mushroom girl cried as villains swarmed her position. 3 villains flew into the air, eyes rolled back as their bones were broken from whatever had hit them. Then a small figure shot out of the water, landing in front of Kinoko and Tetsu, staring at them with big eyes, her white tail and hair reminding them of a beluga whale. Hello, you two. How are you doing? She spoke in a thick, Central European accent. Blunimi. Payam. Okay, she was adorable. A villain shot out of the water. Get back here, you effing brat. Naomi promptly turned and sprayed a pressurized jet of water from her mouth, nailing the villain in the crotch as the fishman fell back into the water with a hilarious expression on his face. So, shall we think of a plan? She then asked, turning back into Izumi. The villains are uncertain, especially after. We just beat 3 of them so one-sidedly. We can take them out and swim to shore. Tetsu suddenly looked sheepish. I can't swim. Not for lack of trying, mind you. My body is denser than the average person's, probably a natural effect of my quirk. I physically can't swim. Izumi nodded, then turned to Kinoko. Your quirk would work perfectly with all this moisture. Help us subdue the villains, that way we can get the boat working without issue. How do you know the boat will work? Tetsu. Why wouldn't it? This school has miniature cities with working facilities and skyscraper-sized robots. Point. A giant hand of water rose above the ship. You and brats dash. The man responsible was cut off as Roboko's fist fired out like a rocket and slammed into his face, shattering his jaw. The rest of the villains looked on in shock, allowing Kinoko to send out spores that quickly put them all to sleep. With that, Izumi walked into the cabin. "Do you even know how to operate a boat?" Kinoko asked. "We'll figure it out." Izumi called. "I'm kinda worried." Kinoko mused to Tetsu. "They said they were gonna kill All Might." "Don't tell me you actually believe that." "It's All Might. Nothing can beat him." "I don't know. They went out of their way to invade one of the most secure places in the country. If they're going to do something so ballsy, they may actually have a way to kill him." As much as he hated to admit it, Tetsu had to acknowledge that she had a point. "Do you think Midoriya figured it out too?" "Probably. She may seem pretty ditzy, but from what I've seen, she's a lot smarter than she looks. Maybe dash. I'm horny." The boat lurched forward. Ryukyu grunted, blood leaking down her head as she was pinned. Whatever the hell these brain guys were, they were a lot stronger than they looked. She dreaded to find out just how strong the big one was, standing next to the villain. There's a clicking of heeled boots. "Hey Ryukyu. Long time huh?" Cinder asked. "Oh. Why am I not surprised you joined up with villains?" "Hey come on. What's with that? Aren't we friends? Don't even try to pretend you're innocent of any Cinder." Ryukyu snapped as she glared at the disgraced former number 8 hero. It was a huge controversy a few years back. Cinder had been outed as strong-arming several support companies into providing only for her, forcing them to sabotage or cancel projects for other pros to try and elevate herself. Eventually, one of the companies got tired of her sheet and outed what she was doing, prompting the other companies to follow suit. Things got even worse when Cinder herself gave a public apology on the matter. If you could actually call that insincere and manipulative crap an apology. The public backlash had gotten so bad that the commission was forced to cave and revoke her license to save face. And the worst part? Several of the heroes she had gone out of the way to sabotage were supposed to be her friends. "Jeez, are you guys still on that?" The Hellhound woman bent down and lay her hand on Ryukyu's head. "Seriously. It's just business, Tatsuma." Cinder rolled her eyes as she stood. "Oh, by the way, what do you think of these Nomu?" She gestured to the brain things. "Bioengineered monsters." "Yeah, Shigaraki wanted to just bring the anti-symbol of peace, but once he realized you would be present, he went ahead and grabbed the other two as well." Cinder let loose a fake sigh. "So yeah, it's not personal or anything, but I got a thing going on here and I gotta give a good presentation to climb up the ladder so? Nice knowing you, Tatsuma." Cinder paused, ears twitching. "The hell is that noise?" "A hooey." "What the sheet?" Shigaraki cried as a large boat came speeding towards them, crashing onto land and skidding across the ground as Cinder tackled Shigaraki out of the way. Once the boat came to a stop, a red-haired girl who looked 17 but was most likely older leapt down, a crazed grin on her face as the villains stared in disbelief. "Househo Marine. Check out this cosplayer trying to keep the setting alive." "Sure. Kill her," Shigaraki stated, prompting the villains to rush at Marine, who promptly pulled out a sword. Ryukyu groaned, shifting back into her human form as Kinoko and Tetsu stumbled up to her, looking green around the gills. I think Midoriya is completely insane." Tetsu groaned. "You're just now figuring that out?" Ryukyu groaned. "But trust me, she's a good kid." This. One villain screamed as he ran from Marine, who was standing on a pile of lacerated, but still very much alive villains laughing. Then Marine locked eyes with Kinoko, liking her lips. Kinoko looked away, red-faced. Shigaraki clawed at his throat. "Hey, chill out. You're gonna look like you got Hinamizawa syndrome or something." Cinder scolded. "Tamura." Kurojiri groaned as he manifested, hunched over for some reason and voice oddly high-pitched. "One of the children managed to escape. I fear he is going to get back up. And the pink one kicked me in the D. several times." "Kurojiri." Shigaraki's voice was dangerously low. "If you weren't our escape gate, I'd kill you and on the spot. Tell me you at least got rid of 13. Kurojiri. One of the students had a healing quirk. That was me. Hi. Marine said happily, shifting into Kiera. Tamira, that girl is a threat. She must be disposed of. You too. He gestured toward the two lesser Nomu. One looked almost ape-like with massive arms and an armored body. The other was lanky and had bat-like wings. Kill that Ifenji brat. Midoriya. Ryukyu cried, being helped up by Kinoko and Tetsutetsu. They're bioengineered monsters. Don't hold back. S-sensei? Kinoko exclaimed, shocked that she would tell Izumi to fight like that. Kiera shifted back into Izumi, who tilted her head at the two Nomu charging at her. As the winged Nomu reached her, she shifted into Nami, who sprayed a jet of water straight into the Nomu's air filtration mask, sending it careening through the air before she shifted into a pink panther woman. Rora Panther has declared war on Hawaiian pizza. Rora leapt into the air, landing on the winged Nomu's back. Before shifting, the Nomu dropping from the sheer weight now holding it down as it slammed into the ground, bones and organs crushed, killing it instantly as the bejeweled girl stood up. Koseki Bijou. Shota Aizawa's sleep paralysis demon. The ape Nomu slammed its fist into Bibu, who merely slid back unharmed. Damn it. Just if they kill her already. Shigaraki snarled. What he didn't realize was that Bibu was actually absorbing the rage coming from him. Hey, check this out. She cried with an open-mouth smile. Skibbity punch. The red glowing fist sent the ape Nomu ragdolling across the area, before she shifted into Mint, who flew into the Nomu's body. The Nomu shuddered, before its massive hands reached up and grabbed hold of its head. With a sharp twist and a tearing of skin, the Nomu dropped dead as Mint rose from its form. Holy shit, Midoriya. Tetsu muttered in disbelief. That was so manly. A dried, cracked hand phased through Mint's stomach. Dude, when was the last time you used moisturizer? Mint asked as she turned to the startled Shigaraki. Also, what's with the hands? You got some kind of FTSH or something? What the F even are you? I'm a student, she said brightly. Shigaraki just pulled back, his already questionable sanity fraying even more at the sheer absurdity of the situation. Then he turned his eyes to Kinoko and Tetsu, who were helping an injured Ryukyu. Let it be known that Shigaraki was a spiteful man-child. Nomu kill. The large, black Nomu, which up until this point had stood by passively, rushed at the three. And then there was ice. By the time Ida reached the main building, his engines were starting to overheat. He had to be thankful for his classmates for giving him the chance. It was Ishido's heroic nutcracking especially that gave him the opportunity to slip past Kurojiri and get through the main doors of the USJ. He spotted another class doing exercises in the field, and used what little he could still get out of his overheated engines to speed over to the startled teacher. Please. You must get help. Alert the faculty at once. Whoa. Calm down, kid. Vlad King tried, 1B having stopped their exercises to see what the hell was going on. What's wrong? Villains. Ida panted. Villains are attacking the USJ and have cut the facility off from the rest of the campus. 13 sent me to retrieve backup, but Ryukyu was being overwhelmed by the time I managed to get out. The air turned tense as Vlad's class started whispering amongst themselves. The Blood Hero's face turned grim. Kendo! Shota! He barked. Take your classmates back to the classroom. You two are in charge. Absolutely no one is to leave until me or another teacher says otherwise. Clear? Yes, sensei. Everyone with us. The red-haired girl commanded. Come with me. Vlad beckoned Ida. As they returned to the building, Bakugo sneered at Ida. Shigaraki was actually starting to draw blood from how much he was scratching himself. Damn it. What now? Nearby was Todoroki and Shoji, who was carrying Azui. They both smelled of smoke. Oh, thanks for distracting it, Todoroki. Mint called out. Distracting? The normally stoic boy looked annoyed. Well yeah, the other two beat Ryukyu and she's a top 10 hero. Since this big muscly one was kept back, it must be even stronger than them, so there's no way you could beat it. Mint explained to Todoroki's increasing agitation. As if to prove her point, the Nomu broke out of the ice, frozen limbs breaking off before regenerating to the shock of everyone but Mint, who turned back into Izumi. Okay, so this must be the one they intend to kill All Might with. Obviously it has some kind of regeneration. But that wouldn't be enough. It would also need super strength comparable to All Might's. Nomu here has both super regeneration and shock absorption. Shigaraki cackled. Why would you tell them that? Cinder scolded. Does it matter? This Nomu was designed to take on All Might. And that's its biggest flaw. Izumi pointed out brightly. What? This creature was created to fight All Might specifically. All Might's combat style is geared towards blunt force punches, which means she shifted again into a flame-haired girl. Hikasa Tamashika. Let's kill Daho. Nomu, Shigaraki grunted. Kill her before dash. The Nomu was engulfed in flames, which cleared to reveal its charred form that began to regenerate. Not hot enough. Tamashika mused, speaking fast. Hey Quirk, help me out here would ya? Oh, hello motherfuckers. The blue-haired girl spoke, leathery wings flapping. Vivi-chan the dragon. I don't have any fish but I have a PP. Smells like fish. Vivi. My name is Vivi. I'm a dragon. And SCK my Sealty Beach. Vivi spoke to Shigaraki. Shigaraki tugged on Kurojire's sleeve. Please excuse us. He dragged the mist man a little bit away. Is something wrong, Tamura? Kurojire asked. Is something I feel like we walked into the FING Twilight Zone. Shigaraki hissed. He glanced over at Vivi, who was testing her powers and had managed to create a saber of light. From her crotch. She called it GNTL Beam. Do you want to just call it quits and leave before the rest of the faculty arrive? No. We've come too far now. Very well. If it's any consolation, I highly doubt this girl can beat our All Might killer. Yeah, you're right. No madash. Shigaraki turned just in time to see Vivi spewing blue flames from her mouth that reduced the Nomu to ash. You could practically hear something inside of Shigaraki snap. Kill her. Kill that F-beach right now. He practically roared at Cinder. What me? You're it. Former top hero. Kurojire noted. You realize she just decimated all of our Nomu, right? At this point I think it'd be better to retreat dash. The front doors exploded open, revealing All Might's towering form. In a blur, the three lead villains were on the ground, and Shigaraki was puking from the hit to the stomach he had taken. I rushed over as soon as young Ida informed us what was happening, though it looks like young Midoriya managed to take out the worst of you fiends. The symbol of peace wasn't smiling. I suggest you stay where you are. In truth, All Might's was in considerable pain right now from his injury flaring up. Netsu had told him to stay back, but when Ida explained the villains had come for him specifically, he ignored those orders. Not fair, Shigaraki coughed. It's not fair. We came all this way and it was beaten by some brat. It's not fair. It's not fair. He reared its head back. Sensei thigh. Kurojire opened a portal. Now Tamura. What on earth is going on? All Might froze at the voice he could never forget. I see. Your plan has gone up in flames. A towering figure stepped out. No need to worry. No plan is foolproof. Let this be a lesson to always having contingencies in place. Red eyes swiveled towards All Might, the figure smirking. If it isn't Toshinori. It's been years, hasn't it? All for one. Still in perfect health BTW. Ah, and that behind you must be. His eyes lingered on Izumi, who had reverted back to her base form. All of you get to the exit now. All Might let out an uncharacteristic snarl as he charged forward, leaving behind a shockwave. All for one caught his punch. You've gotten slower, All Might. And so predictable too. Guess I should expect as much from Shimura's apprentice. Keep her name out of your filthy mouth. All Might roared as he slapped his fist into All for One's jaw. Impact recoil. All Might was sent skidding back as an unseen force struck him. Such a shame. All for one mused as he stared at the corpses of the Nomu. These creatures were designed to kill you, but you didn't even fight them, did you? These wounds aren't your handiwork. It was the girl, wasn't it? The same girl who gave you that crippling injury and tore out your stomach and lung. Izumi Midoriya. You leave her out of this, damn it. All Might snarled. Why do you even defend her, All Might? She is a murderer, yet you act like I'm the worst one here. All for One's face was smug. He knew what he was doing. So many of my subordinates locked away for life, yet here you defend this girl whose hands are just as equally stained with blood. Do her victims not matter to you? Shut the hell up. All Might snapped, his punch blocked by All for One's palm. What happened should have never happened, and those children didn't deserve such a fate, but don't you dare pretend the adults who tormented her, treated her as less than human, corrupted other children into following their ideals and pushed her to that point were completely innocent. That girl has suffered more than enough in her life. This ends now. He reared back for one massive punch. All for One's hand gripped his injury. Blood spewed from All Might's mouth as he deflated. All for One gripped his throat. Ah, is that? All for One mused. I see. You have not passed it on yet. I would have thought you'd hand it over to the girl, or even Nitai's brat, but it seems it was a good thing Tamura's plan failed so spectacularly. I will discuss things with him when we return. Izumi there, as Bibu, charged up by All Might's rage and hatred towards All for One. All for One grabbed her skull. No. Now then, show me what kind of dash. All for One froze, eyes widening as he jolted. What no? He had barely manifested into the girl's vestige realm when he was assaulted, her currently unlocked personas barely giving him a chance to retaliate as their collective will overpowered his own. Through the barrage, he just barely managed to glimpse Izumi's vestige. It didn't look unusual, a reflection of the girl herself. But what caught his interest was the figure wrapped around her vestige, holding tightly as if protecting it. Unlike the awakened personas, this figure was transparent, as if not full there. Blue, oversized hoodie, white hair, and shark-like tail. The figure turned, and glowing blue eyes glared into his. Then, it was dark. All for One didn't know what was happening. He looked around. This place was empty and cold. Then, something appeared from the darkness. Glowing red eyes. The figure lunged. There were so many teeth. Aya Agig. All for One reared back in agony, releasing Izumi and All Might as he felt several of his stolen quirks destroyed. He slammed his fist into Izumi's face as she reverted to her base form, the girl flying into the air in a spray of blood. Izumi's head snapped toward All for One, eyes glowing red and teeth razor-sharp as she whipped her arms with enough force that she was launched back towards him, teeth snapping into his outstretched arm. Get off! Get off! All for One cried. Gah! With a sickening sound of tearing flesh, ripping muscle and cracking bones, All for One's arm was torn off just below the elbow. Izumi pushed herself back to the forefront of her consciousness, transforming into Vivi, who let loose intense flames that scorched the severed arm to ash and cauterized the stump. Black and red tendrils pierced her body, flinging her back as All for One stumbled away. Then the gunshots rang out. Shigaraki and Cinder were hit in the limbs before Kurogiri managed to cover all of them and warp them away. All Might, in intense agony, crawled over the girl's unmoving form, having reverted back into Izumi. Midoriya? The girl didn't respond, glassy eyes staring lifelessly at the ceiling as blood trickled from her body. Oh, not again. I can't lose anyone to him again. Please. As if in answer to his silent prayers, a ball of flaming light emerged from Izumi's body. All Might stared at it in disbelief before it returned to Izumi, her body becoming wreathed in flaming light as her wounds healed as if they were never there. Midoriya's form changed, and the blue-haired girl in the sailor fuku blinked up at the ceiling dumbly before pushing herself up, looking at him. Oh, hey All Might. Did we win? Senzawa. The teachers were quick to round up the remaining villains. Afterwards, the students were escorted out of the facility to await further instructions. Midoriya and All Might were carted out before anyone could see, along with a badly beaten Ryukyu. A plain-looking detective was taking stock, getting the children's accounts on the whole incident. Do you want to know where I was? Aoyama asked dazzlingly. Where? Tsuyu responded. Secret. Aoyama chirped. And why would it be a secret? Amelia Watson was suddenly in his face. The police need to know details like this. Midoriya, aren't you supposed to be in the nurse's office? Tsuyu asked. Watson gave Aoyama a watching you gesture, then just vanished. Aoyama suddenly looked uncomfortable. Did you go somewhere, Midoriya? Toshinori asked, in his skinny form and laying in a bed that was quite a bit small for him. Seriously, they have giant doors in this school yet all the beds are regular-sized? What happens when a student with a gigantism quirk comes in? Oh, I was just being suspicious of Aoyama, Watson said brightly before reverting back into Izumi. Then she turned to an exasperated recovery girl. And to answer your question, we feel perfectly fine. We don't know why everyone's getting so worked up. Young lady, if what All Might says is true, you died, then came back to life. Recovery girl huffed. HM? Maybe Kiara had something to do with it. Or maybe it was our quirk. Maybe it was a combination of both. She said brightly. Midoriya dash. Mind your own business. Izumi's eyes turned red. Recovery girl scoffed, turning back to Toshinori. You're overprotective of that girl. Don't worry about Ryukyu's injuries. They're not as bad as they look so I can heal her myself. Izumi's eyes returned to normal as she left. That girl. First, she has one of the most versatile quirks I've ever seen, one powerful enough that even you in your prime would be helpless against it. On top of that, she's quite smart when that merged personality isn't scrambling her brain too much. Now we find out her quirk can just resurrect her. You should be thankful that girl wants to be a hero, Toshinori. Because she would make a truly terrifying villain. Makes me wonder what she would have become if you hadn't stepped in 6 years ago. I am going to be quite blunt here. Nedzu said with a smile. You 5 saw something you really shouldn't have seen, but I can't fault you for that. Todoroki, Shoji, Azui, Tetsutetsu, and Komori all stood before his desk, looking awkward, except for Todoroki, who looked just as blank-faced as ever, though. The fact that the room seemed unusually cold didn't go unnoticed. Tsukachi stood next to Nedzu with a stack of papers. I am speaking about both All Might's true state, as well as any things you may have heard the villain speak about. Principal Nedzu. Azui spoke up. That man he called Izumi-chan a murderer. Don't tell me it's actually true, Karo. Nedzu sighed. The villain in question has a habit of toying with people, using information to break them down. I will not deny that Midoriya was involved in something, but I will say that the villain made Midoriya look worse than she actually was. The people whose blood stains her hands were not exactly innocent themselves. She did inform you she was misdiagnosed as quirkless, did she not? Nevertheless, that case has long been resolved, and Midoriya has been cleared on account of her sentient quirk acting out of her control. Midoriya is deeply remorseful of what happened, even though she herself was not truly responsible. I would ask you not let this information taint your opinion of her. The UA staff can vouch for her character. He nodded to Tsukachi, who laid the papers on his desk. Now unfortunately, we cannot allow either information of Midoriya's past or All Might's weakened state to leave this room, both for Midoriya's own sake and for societal stability. I need you all to sign these NDAs. This is non-negotiable. Refusal will result in immediate termination from UA. Normally this would require your parents or guardians, but given the sensitive nature of this information, we have been granted some leeway. There was silence. Do not think I am doing this out of favoritism for Midoriya. I would do the same to any of you were you in her position. What a joke. Shoto radiated freezing air as he walked stiffly home. All the abuse, all the social neglect, all of the training from hell. And All Might was a crippled man. All these years, and Endeavor couldn't even surpass a crippled man. It made Shoto laugh hard, tears brimming in his eyes as he looked like a lunatic. It was bullshit. When he got home, he saw that his SPRM donor would be pulling another late night, so he snuck into the BSDRD's office. Shoto had figured out the password for Endeavor's computer years ago, so getting into his HeroNet account was easy. The villain said that it was Midoriya who gave All Might his injury. Something so crippling would have necessitated time off, so Shoto looked for a PRD of time where All Might had suddenly gone inactive. He found one 6 years ago. He looked to the file of a case he had been involved in immediately before this PRD of inactivity. Aldra Elementary School Massacre. To his surprise, the file was heavily restricted. Just how much were they covering up that even the number 2 hero couldn't access the full details? There was no mention of All Might's injury unsurprisingly, and the villain responsible was spoken of vaguely. No name, age, or even gender were supplied. All was said was that the villain had been dealt with, though details on what actually become of them were also restricted. As for the casualties? 34 students and 12 teachers murdered. 6 students surviving with life-changing injuries. And the principal of the school had been investigated and arrested for corruption, abuse, negligence, and encouraging a Darwinist environment among students, allowing those with strong quirks to bully and abuse those with weak quirks or no quirks at all. Shoto did come across a photo of the villain responsible. A blurry photo taken in the heat of the moment by a civilian. Shoto could just barely make out a figure in a red hoodie with a blue tail. School had been cancelled for the next couple of days while they beefed up the security. Toshinori was assigned rest due to his injuries. He sighed, walking through the halls of Might Tower with a cup of herbal tea. He missed coffee so much. He checked inside the training room. Izumi was testing out the new personas she had unlocked at the USJ. Senzawa stood amongst a veil of water that seemed to move at her whim. Ah, water manipulation. The schoolgirl-looking persona didn't really strike him as the type. He worried about the girl, especially after what had happened the USJ. She insisted that she was fine, and trying to push the subject only agitated a certain persona, so they had no choice but to leave it be. She seemed fine though. Another issue was the Nomu. Tsukachi informed them that testing the corpses revealed they were once human. They had not informed Midoriya. Who knows how she would react? Though from what they could gather, the Nomu seemed pretty much brain dead, so killing them was probably a mercy. Toshinori sighed and went to go lay down. The students had finally returned to school. From what the news had mentioned, the villains had most likely used the press incident before the USJ to sneak in and look at All Might's schedule to find out when he'd be most isolated. Because of this, Nedzu had brought UA's lawyers down hard on the news outlets involved. Hopefully it would make them think twice about pulling a similar stunt in the future. Well, it was unlikely, but one could only hope. Children, I assure you I'm fine. Ryukyu was bandaged up in some places. My injuries looked worse than they were. One last session with Recovery Girl and I'll be back in top shape. But sensei, even though you're a top 10 hero, those Nomu things beat you so easily. Ashido spoke up. The nature of those creatures caught me off guard. I held back. That won't happen again. Ryukyu assured. Now, we have some important matters to discuss. The sports festival is coming up soon. Wait, is that even a good idea? Jiro spoke up. We just got attacked by villains. Trust me, this decision was not made lightly. Ryukyu assured. It was decided that the internships following the sports festival are too important for your training, so the festival will go on. Security will be significantly beefed up compared to previous years as well. Don't think we're not taking this seriously. How you perform in the festival can affect the opportunities you get when you go pro, so don't skimp on the training and do your best, okay? There was a short PRD before lunch that the class began to chat amongst themselves. Kinoko inched closer to Izumi, unsure. Midoriya? Green eyes met brown. Please don't be afraid of me. That had surprised Kinoko. Not just the quiet plea, but the fact that Midoriya spoke in singular. Midoriya. Izumi looked over at Azui, who was with Tetsu and Shoji. There was an awkward silence. Tetsu stepped forward suddenly. Midoriya, are you alright? You took a pretty nasty hit at the USJ. Just like that the air cleared. Izumi smiled. Okay. Thank you for worrying. Kinoko felt a wave of relief. Who the heck are you guys? All eyes snapped towards Kaminari, who was standing on front of the classroom door. which was blocked by a crowd of students. They're probably here to scout us out. Jiro sighed. We did just survive a villain attack. Please do not block the way for us. We should all be heading to the cafeteria at this time. Anything you'd like to discuss with us can be done there. Ida chopped his arm. So this is Class 1A, huh? A boy shoved his way to the front. His tired eyes and messy purple hair reminded Izumi of someone. Gotta say, I'm not impressed. This is the class that fought villains? Hello. We're the class representative. Do you need something? Izumi stepped forward. The boy looked at her. So you're the one he warned me about, huh? Let me make this clear. I wanted to be a hero, but I failed the entrance exam. The sports festival is my ticket in now. If we perform well enough, we can be transferred to the hero course. He grinned. Naturally, that means one of you will be given the boot dash. That's great. Everyone blinked owlishly at Izumi, who smiled. What? It's good that they're giving the people who failed another chance. After all, even though there are rescue points, it's still pretty difficult to pass on those alone, so the sports festival will give you another chance to show what you can do. She held up a finger. But if it puts our positions at risk, then that just means we'll be fighting all the harder. So do your best and we'll do the same. Everyone stared at her in disbelief. Tee. The boy turned away. Whatever. Consider this a declaration of war. As he left, a girl shuffled her way forward. She had strawberry blonde hair done in twin tails and pink eyes. Hello. I'm his class representative. I'm so sorry about Shinso. He's not exactly on the best of terms with the rest of the class. She spoke softly. My name is Lily Yosei. But some people call me Lemon or Lemon Leaf. Lemon Leaf. Your neurons will thank you later. Anyway, I'm really sorry about that. A lot of students have gotten into their heads that you guys have gotten arrogant after. The USJ, but you all see like nice people. Oh, it's perfectly all right. Izumi assured. We should make an effort for our classes to communicate more though. We can avoid things like this in the future dash. A hand roughly grabbed the front of Izumi's uniform. Deku. Let go. You think you can just waltz in here like nothing happened? That you can look down on me like the affy villain you are? Let go. You think I'm just gonna stand by and let a killer like you walk around without chains? Bakugo's hand crackled threateningly. Let go. Let her go, you a-hole. Mina shoved Bakugo back. What the hell's wrong with you? You stay out of this CNT. Bakugo snapped, causing several students to gasp. This is between me and that green-haired beach. The hell's wrong with this guy? I think he's from Class B. Hey. There's no need for a fight. A red-haired boy pushed his way to the front, followed by a brown-haired girl. Look, Bakugo didn't mean it, if we all just calm down dash. What the hell, Kirishima? Are you seriously defending this guy? Mina snapped. The boy, Kirishima, flinched. Look, I know he seems rough around the edges, but I assure you he's a really nice guy deep down dash. He called me a scene Kirishima. Mina snapped. I'm sure he didn't dash. Shut the F up, you shitty-haired idiot. Bakugo snapped. And you, get the F out of my way, raccoon eyes. A good number of one, as students moved to back Mina. The hell's his problem? Yeah, and that red-haired guy is defending that a-hole? There was also that blonde deech in 1B spouting nonsense about superiority. Ish. We were calling 1A arrogant, but it looks like 1B is the class full of assholes. Shut up, you demon extras. Bakugo snarled, rounding on the other students. Do you even know who you're looking at? I'm Katsuki Bakugo, the future #1 hero. And I'm going to prove it by killing this FA villain. Leave her alone, a-hole. That's enough. The students all jumped, clearing away at the sight of an angry Vlad King. You three with me. He gestured towards Bakugo, Kirishima, and the brown-haired girl. They followed, Bakugo more reluctantly as he shot a murderous glare at Izumi, who just stood there, eyes flickering between red and green. The rest of the students stood there, unsure. Hey, what did he mean when he called that girl a killer? One student nervously spoke up. Tetsu, ever a buddy? spoke up quickly. He must have been talking about when Midoriya killed those Nomu things at the USJ on Ryukyu's orders. The students accepted this as they began to clear out. Lemon wandered up to Izumi. I think she's dissociating. She mused. We should get her to the nurse. The silence was tense. Bakugo and his parents sat facing Nezu. Bakugo looked like he wanted to strangle someone. Nezu took a long sip of his tea. Do you know why you're here, young man? No. The boy snapped, prompting his mother to swat him on the back of the head. Katsuki be respectful. Mitsuki hissed. You are here because of your decision to attempt to assault another student. I was trying to put Deku in her place. It's your effing fault for letting that villain in this school in the first place. Wait, are you talking about Izumi? Damn it, Katsuki, we told you to leave that girl alone. I'm training to be a hero. What's the FNG point if a FING murderer is allowed to run free? She slaughtered people for no dim reason. Bakugo. The room seemed to chill at Nezu's tone. Your self-serving memory of what happened 6 years ago aside, consider this your only warning. You are not to be anywhere near Izumi Midoriya outside of certain events overseen by the staff. Even then, you are not to interact with her at all, lest we be forced to resort to more extreme measures. Is that a FING threat? Bakugo snarled. It is a promise, young man. Go now, Vlad will escort you back to class. I wish to speak with your parents. As the blood hero escorted the fuming boy away, Nezu stared down Mitsuki and Masaru, who fidgeted uncomfortably. To anyone familiar with Mitsuki, they would be surprised to see the usually hot-headed woman so cowed. However, Mitsuki was fully aware of how her son had played a role in what happened 6 years ago, how it had led to the deaths of all those people at Izumi's unwilling hands. How it had led to the death of her best friend. As much as she loved Katsuki, she knew that whatever consequences he faced if he continued to act out, it would only make things a hell of a lot harder if she tried to get in the way. Especially since, unlike their son, she and her husband were fully aware of who Izumi's caretaker was. We sent him to several therapists. None of them ended well. Some of them were but kissers just like at Aldera, and the few who actually did try anything gave up on him. One of them suggested Katsuki didn't actually care about all those people and was just using the incident to justify hating Izumi, Mitsuki explained. At this point we were mostly hoping he would grow out of it. He seemed fine up until he got his acceptance letter. Nezu sighed. I will be blunt. I only allowed your son into my school to prevent the commission from getting their claws on him and enabling his worst tendencies. I am hopeful we can at least try to curb him, but I meant what I said earlier. He is on extremely thin ice, and if he steps out of line regarding young Izumi, I will resort to drastic measures. There was a moment of silence before Mitsuki and Masaru bowed their heads. Thank you for at least giving him a chance, slim as it may be. We'll try again to get through to him. Is Izumi okay? According to Recovery Girl, she was disassociating badly but fell asleep a bit ago. I see. Before we go, will Katsuki still be allowed to participate in the sports festival? I'm afraid I'll have to get back to you on that one. Have a nice day. Jade VM Spilses, Puspkol PGBTPZ. The boat rocked gently as Izumi rowed it up towards the beach, a massive lighthouse towering over as she stepped onto the sand. The shadow that inhabited the lighthouse was one who Izumi referred to as the lighthouse keeper. Shadows was what she referred to as her personas that had yet to awaken, called as such due to the misty black smoke that obscured most of their bodies, eyes glowing white and blank until such a time they would awaken. Since Izumi didn't know their names until she transformed into them the first time, she just gave their shadows titles. Stepping across the beach until she reached grass, she noticed a large hole nearby, dirt flying out of it. Hey Tenma, you digging a hole? She called down. Yep. The fox girl said brightly as she poked her head out. Cool. Any reason? Just felt like it. Neat. Hey, so, Tenma leaned close. Just give the word, and I'll break every bone in that explosion brat's body. I think I'd better talk to the others before I come to a decision. Izumi explained. Oh, okay. And with that, Izumi wandered off towards the city. Looks deep, Pippa said as she wandered over. Pippa, get your butt down here and help me dig or I swear to F. I'm taking over and posting Pippa the Rippa to every video sharing site I can find. Izumi was careful she walked through the crowd of shadows. A good jostle could wake them up, but she preferred to let them wake up on their own time. There were easily several hundred shadows standing around aimlessly. Anyone else might find it disturbing to look at, but Izumi didn't. She passed by a pair of twin shadows standing side by side. Izumi could just make out their yellow and black school uniforms. She neared the arcade, where the gremlin and automaton shadows were standing, when she heard a crash from inside. Curious, Izumi wandered over just in time for Mint and Doki to come rushing out, arms stuffed with prizes that may or may not have been ill-gotten. Quick, grab some and run. Mint giggled as she stuffed some in Izumi's arms. The three bolted down the street, finally stopping near the bakery, where the dog shadow stood passively behind the counter, with the thunder-type monster shadow standing near the donut case. Hey, check this one out. Mint giggled as she pulled out a pair of plushies, one of a dragon and one of a fairy. Neat. They remind me of those two shadows by the big bridge. Izumi laughed. Hey, so you doing okay? Doki asked. I'm good. I've been wanting to talk about Bakugo though. We should kick his butt? Doki spoke up. You can't spend your life being afraid of him. We're infinitely stronger. Yeah. I'll pack the chainsaw. Mint giggled. No chainsaw please. Izumi spoke up. There you two are. Oh crap, run. Doki and Mint bolted as Amelia Watson came charging after them. Hey Izumi. Aoyama seems suspicious. Aim called as she rushed past. Izumi shrugged and continued on. She could see the cloud shadow drifting aimlessly through the air, and at one point passed by a shrine where the priestess and space shadows were standing. Soon Izumi came upon the center of the city, where a large park stood. In the very center, where a fountain should have been, was instead a large hole with a thick grate. Izumi wandered up to it. Are you there? She asked worriedly. Her voice echoed down, but no response came. Izumi pulled out a chocolate and dropped it through the grate. Listening carefully, she could faintly hear the sound of the wrapping being torn open and some chewing noises. I'll come visit again, I promise. She turned and noticed the owl shadow had moved from her original place near the library and was now sitting on a park bench. That kind of thing did happen sometimes, but not often. She wandered towards the tallest building in the city, passing by the succubus shadow on the way. Izumi also noticed the imp shadow as well. Before she reached the building, she noticed a pinned ring stand being raided by Fuwa and Makoko. Don't go spoiling your appetites, okay? Izumi spoke up. She got a pair of boss in return. Oh, ruffian. Izumi was tackled suddenly. Do you need us to take care of the angry JRK? We'll fluff him up. I'll consider it. Izumi smiled. And with that, she went back towards the building. She climbed up the building until coming towards a certain door, then she knocked. Kaya! The muffled yelp combined with the crashing of stuff told Izumi she was in the right place. The door opened a crack, yellow eye peering out. Hey Henya, can you call everyone together? The real world. The sun had already gone down when Izumi suddenly shot up, nearly giving Recovery Girl a heart attack. Food? She asked. The old woman sighed as she went to grab something for the girl. Oh, and can you get Principal Nedzu? We need to talk to him about Bakugo. The day of the sports festival had arrived, and Izumi was laying against the table as one of her personas. You need more coffee? Eliola. She is axolotl. Midoriya. Todoroki walked up, face the same as usual. Statistically speaking, I'm not entirely sure which of us is stronger dash. It's me. You know it's me. Quit trying to kid yourself. Elio spoke up. But just know I will beat you. You're welcome to try bruh. Todoroki clenched his teeth as the intercom alerted them to make their way out onto the field. Let's go. Izumi spoke brightly as she sat up, reverting to her base form. The crowd roared in delight as the students stepped onto the field, Present Mike introducing the classes one by one and without any bias whatsoever, so Mint had no excuse to haunt his home. He still had nightmares about chainsaws. As soon as the classes were all situated, Midnight stepped forward. Before we begin, we need the student pledge. Izumi Midoriya, please step forward. There was silence as Izumi stepped up to the mic. Then the silence continued. Izumi tilted her head. Then there was a flash, followed by a pair of bow boss. Hello ruffians. We hope you're having a good day. Fuwa spoke up. Ha! Makoko bowed. Today's a big day for all of us, and I'm sure you're all so excited. Be sure to give it your all. But remember, win or lose, you should be proud of how far you've gotten. Okay, ruffians? We're all winners today. Bow bow. The crowd cheered as Izumi reverted back to her base form. As Midnight announced the first event, many people were expressing amusement and interest in the green-haired girl with the strange quirk. Others, not so much. Bakugo outright sneered at Izumi. That should have been him up there, damn it. He should have been up there letting those FNG extras know they had no chance in beating him. Instead, that FNG villain Deku was screwing up his origin story again. In another part of Japan, a tall, lean man glared at his computer in his darkened office, glasses glinting off the light. The girl, that little beach who had ruined everything. It was bad enough All Might's bleeding heart had led him to take in a villain of all things, especially one that belonged in the deepest recesses of Tartarus, but same villain had manipulated Mirio and All Might's bleeding heart into turning on him, claiming he was grooming Mirio and whatever other nonsense that Watson Beach had made up. Now, not only had Mirio turned down One for All thanks to whatever lies that girl had spewed, but Mirio's parents had the audacity to file a restraining order on him, and Yue even blacklisted him from taking on interns. Whatever. He could fix this. First he would work on getting that restraining order repealed, then he would convince Mirio of his duty to take on One for All. And he would find a way to deal with Midoriya once and for all. Tired eyes glared at the TV. Of course Yue was once again showing the villain favoritism, letting her do the pointless student pledge on live TV. She was the reason he had been fired from Yue in the first place. And confined to a mental hospital for a couple of years. First it was that Watson Beach digging her nose where it didn't belong. He was doing his duty as a hero in passing along information of Midoriya to the commission. That girl should be rotting in Tartarus. Then she was reporting him to the Ministry of Education, claiming some bullshit about his expulsions and logical ruses ruining kids' lives and futures. And Nedzu just let it happen. He even laughed. Idiots. His actions were logical. He was keeping these kids from getting killed. And then there was Midoriya's claims that some of his former students had taken their own lives or descended into villain. All that did was prove his point about how they wouldn't make in heroics if they just folded so easily. He could at least take splice in the fact that Shinso was pretty much set to win this whole thing. There was no way Midoriya would be able to counter the training he had put him through. The girl was far too reliant on that stupid quirk of hers. And in the microscopic chance that failed, Shinso at least could rely on his quirk to take that spoiled little villain down. The first round, the labyrinth race. All of the first-year students were placed in the center of a large labyrinth with the goal of escaping. There were puzzles and hostile robots scattered throughout the maze to hinder their progress. The first 42 students to escape would move on to the next round. The race started off with a freezing bang when Todoroki froze most of the students in place. By the time they had managed to get out, he had already gotten a head start, much to their frustrations. However, there was one other student catching the hero's attention, Izumi Midoriya. It was quickly made apparent that Mint could just phase through the walls of the maze, and could just leave at any time. However, she didn't do that. Instead she stuck around helping some students out, whether it be unlocking a door from the other side, helping a student fend off robots, having Henya help out with puzzles, and so on. Needless to say, the heroes were impressed by her sportsmanship and helpfulness in contrast to people like Todoroki and Bakugo, who clearly didn't give a DMN about the other students. Shoto was shivering as he moved into one spot of the maze. He saw a long hallway with a lit-up doorway at the end. That had to be the exit. Before he could step forward though, a nearby gate opened. Okay, we checked and we think this is the exit. Izumi explained as she led a group of students, some hero course, some gen ed, some business or support. We just need to be mindful of the, oh hey Todoroki. There was a split second where the temperature dropped that Midoriya launched forward, Shoto plugging the hallway with ice as a small figure slipped through a gap in the ice. And then, Todoroki found himself face to face with a very small woman. Konbakura. Nimi Nightmare. Banned from Recovery Girls Clinic. Shoto moved to swat her, only for Nimi to bounce off of his arm as she pulled out a FNG smoking pipe of all things and smacked him in the head so hard it left a small crater in the ground. Midoriya switched to Mint, who dove into Todoroki's body as the boy felt his motor control being ripped away as his body stood on its own, flames bursting from his hand to melt the ice in front of him. Once that was done, Mint left his body. Todoroki blinked, trying to get through the headache as he contemplated what happened, staring down at his still smoking hand. Then he glared at Mint, eyes full of rage and hatred. You dash. A nearby wall exploded. Red eyes analyzing Mint for a moment, before narrowing in rage. Deku. Mint gave a two-fingered salute, then took off towards the exit. Bakugo immediately launched after her, Todoroki frozen in surprise. Get back here you murderous beach. I'm not losing to you. She was a villain. It was only natural her place was crushed beneath his heel. Mint suddenly turned, a effing chainsaw of all things appearing in. Something washed over Bakugo. It's okay. You've been working hard, haven't you? Hasn't he? You must be all stressed out. Maybe you should let me hang onto that flag for you. That sounded right. Dude. Bakugo. What the hell? Bakugo jolted. What Ash? Why did you give that girl your flag? Kirishima asked in disbelief. Bakugo looked down to notice his flag was indeed missing. Then he noticed Lemon leaping around with it in hand. You bitch. Bakugo roared as he launched after her. Must be so nice being blessed with such a powerful quirk. Marine tilted her head. The purple-haired JRK had jumped onto the ship and started harassing her. Me? Everyone's always been walking on eggshells around me for my villainous quirk. You have no idea what people like me have to go through day after day. He seemed to be trying to get a reaction out of her. Was his quirk response-based? All you spoiled little hero brats acting like you're hot sheet just because you passed that biased entrance exam. My quirk was useless against those robots, unlike your flashy little gift. Maybe Izumi would make tacos for dinner. She hasn't had those in a while. Damn it. Say something. What do you want me to say? Shinso grinned briefly, before recoiling as if struck by an invisible force, stumbling back, his nose gushing blood. What the F dash? Dude, every single one of my personas has a mind of their own. Marine pointed out. You just tried to use a mental quirk on over 20 people at once. God damn it. Shinso lunged. His movements were sloppy, slow, and predictable as Marine easily parried. What the hell even are you? I'm Dash. Marine grabbed him by the shoulders. Horny. Shinso let out a strange squeaky noise as Marine slammed her knee into his crotch, grabbing his flag as he collapsed. She turned to saunter away. A brown-haired girl stumbled out, blinking owlishly at Marine. Oh, you're Deku, right? Midoriya? Uraraka asked. Oh, I'm not. Marine spoke in an uncharacteristically cold voice. My name is Izumi. Deku is what Bakugo uses to make fun of me. Oh well, I think it kinda sounds like Dikairu, you know? Like, you can do it dash. Don't call me Deku. Marine reverted back to Izumi, eyes red and teeth sharp. Uraraka stepped back. Just because that BSRD Bakugo does it. What exactly is going on between you two? You're friends, right? Friends? Are you effing stupid? That narcissistic psycho bullied and abused me. Used his quirk to burn me like it was a sick game to him. Even after my quirk finally came in, nothing changed. Uraraka frowned, looking deep in thought for a moment. Hey look, I get you two probably don't have the best relationship, but Bakugo's my friend. You can't just go around spreading rumors about people like that. Uraraka hit the deck hard, head bouncing off the hard surface as her freshly broken nose gushed blood. So your first reaction to someone admitting to being bullied and abused is to call them a liar? Doki glared down at her coldly. You make me sick. Uraraka pushed herself shakily before launching at Izumi, hand outstretched. Doki grabbed her hand, and Uraraka screamed as one of her fingers was snapped backwards with a crack. 5-point activation, I'm assuming? The pads on your fingers gave it away. Doki mused as she walked towards Uraraka, who was cradling her broken finger. You know, I don't think you know what friendship even is. She transformed into Mint. Friends are supposed to always have each other's backs. They're supposed to be open and trusting of one another. Mint slammed her fists down on Uraraka's back, slamming her to the floor hard. Uraraka reached out with her unbroken hand, only for Doki to grab it and hurl her into a wall. They don't call each other demeaning nicknames. They don't constantly yell threats at other people to sate their fragile ego. Uraraka swatted at her, only for Doki to duck and plant her foot into Uraraka's stomach, the brown-haired girl collapsing to the ground, winded and trying not to throw up. You've known Bakugo for like a month at best? Mint pulled Uraraka up by her collar. Take it from someone who actually grew up with Bakugo. She slammed Uraraka into the deck with immense force. Your friendship with him is completely one-sided. You and Kirishima aren't his friends. You're his lackeys. Doki kneeled above Uraraka, punching her in the face when she tried to fight back. Bakugo doesn't give a shit about anyone but himself. He's an arrogant, egotistical narcissist who resorts to violence the moment he thinks anyone so much as looks at him funny. And you? You're pathetic if you honestly think he's worthy of being a hero. She stood up, looking down on Uraraka's broken form with pity. Then Doki leapt up until she was at the highest point of the ship, reaching her hands out. She grabbed. Unbelievable! Present Mike yelled over the speakers. In a single move, Izumi Midoriya has stolen every opposing team's flags at once. The fights below ground to a halt as everyone realized that, yes, their flags were all missing. Have fun! Doki called as she threw the flags into the air, watching as everyone started scrambling in a panic. Then she noticed Bakugo chasing Lemon. Doki reached out, and in the blink of an eye Lemon had appeared right there, blinking in surprise and still holding Bakugo's flag. Doki grabbed a bucket and gave it to Lemon just in time for the girl to start vomiting in it. Yes, sorry. It's something you get used to. Doki assured, watching a near-feral Bakugo looking around wildly for Lemon. After about a minute, the buzzer rang, and the round was over. Second round winners. Team Midoriya. Team Minoma. Team Bakugo. After that, they were all dismissed for lunch while the staff compiled the third round matchups. Izumi took some satisfaction in seeing Bakugo looking like he was about to have an aneurysm. After all that, I'm starving. Kinoko yawned. I could eat a horse. Kinoko froze as Izumi, now Marine, stood over her, hands slapped to the wall. I could eat you if you want. Marine grinned lecherously, tilting Kinoko's head up with a finger as the mushroom girl's face turned crimson. If you want to, Kinoko barely managed to squeak out, pupils dilated as she tried to process the situation. Midoriya. Both girls turned towards Todoroki, who was glaring at Izumi as if she had kicked a puppy. I need to talk to you. Okay. Marine reverted back into Izumi, who just stood there. Alone, please. Todoroki huffed. Oh, in that case, no thanks. Izumi turned. What? Well, you clearly don't like us, and you're clearly upset about not making it to the next round, so as far as we're concerned, you may try to attack us out of spite. Izumi said with a dissonant smile on her face. It wouldn't work, but we'd rather not bother with it. Besides, she transformed back into Marine. I'm hungry and I have a huge craving for mushrooms. Kinoko let out a noise. Todoroki looked upset, fist clenching. Fine, Komori can come, but I'd prefer to talk somewhere private. Marine let out an exaggerated sigh. Fian. 5 minutes of exposition later. That's why I refuse to use my left side in battle. Todoroki spoke coldly. Okay, done. Izumi held up her phone. Just sent the details and a recording of our conversation to Ryukyu-sensei and Principal Nedzu. You did what? Todoroki demanded, the temperature dropping. Izumi pat him on the shoulder. It was very brave of you to come forward with your story of being the product of a Quirk marriage and being abused by your father, knowing that as class representative we'd be obligated to pass this information on to the teachers. It can't have been easy, but we assure you, they'll do everything in their power to help you. Izumi turned and left with Kinoko, leaving Todoroki in anger and disbelief. Around the corner, an arrogant a-hole with firecrackers for hands who apparently felt himself entitled to this sensitive and personal information scoffed. When they got to the cafeteria, there was another problem. I'm telling you, that's what Sensei said. Mineta explained. Yaoyorozu looked unsure of what Mineta and Kaminari were telling her. What's going on? Izumi asked, walking over with Kinoko. Well, apparently Sensei wants us to act as cheerleaders in the lead-up to the next event. She cupped her chin. Looks like I'll have to make the outfits myself. I just don't understand why the school couldn't provide dash. Yaoyorozu, you can't seriously be this gullible. Izumi interrupted. Huh. Izumi suddenly transformed into a green-haired girl. Series fauna. Rejoice saplings. Reject the pain of flesh and become trees. A vine-haired girl from 1B yelped as her quirk suddenly acted of its own accord, shooting out and restraining the startled boys. First of all, Ryukyu-sensei has our phone numbers, so there's no reason why she couldn't tell us this. Herself, even a quick text would have sufficed. Second, never in the sports festival's history have they made students act as cheerleaders. You usually hire some, so there's no reason for them to change things so suddenly and without forewarning. Third, she pointed at the two boys. Why in the name of SAP would she send this kind of message through Mineta of all people? You. Yaoyorozu paused to think. Actually, you have a point. Mineta and Kaminari looked nervous as Fauna proceeded to text Ryukyu. Now you two sit here. Someone will come to pick you up. She went to finally get her lunch as the vine-haired girl looked on in disbelief. A half an hour later, during which I can assure you the only mushrooms Izumi feasted on were in her katsudon, the students had been gathered back into the arena, where the first round matchups were declared. Izumi was going to be in the very first match. Her opponent was that Monoma kid from Class B. She had been told to wait in the waiting room for the match to start. Izumi walked in, but the room wasn't empty as it was supposed to be. I bet you think you're so great, don't you? Shinso seethed. Izumi tilted her head. All of you Hero Course brats are the same, thinking you're so high and mighty because you have strong, flashy, heroic quirks. It's not fair. Even that Mushroom Beach managed to pass that bias dash. You don't get to talk about Kinoko like that. Izumi growled, temperature dropping as her eyes flashed red. Shinso recoiled, hitting the ground as his nose began to bleed. Did you seriously just try to use your quirk on us? Izumi's eyes were green once more. You can get in a lot of trouble for attempted sabotage. Damn it. This isn't fair. Shinso snarled, slamming his fist on the ground. All the training I was supposed to beat you. Aizawa said I was meant to show the world for what you really were. Clink. He told me what you did. All those people you killed. Clink. But why does someone like you get to be in the hero course when I'm the one being treated like a villain? Clink. Shinso looked up and locked eyes with her. The one persona Aizawa had told him to avoid at all costs. Bon Bijou. The gem on her chest pulsed. Shinso was falling, quite slowly through some dark void. Ishiguro Gorogoro Bibu Tax Tax. 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 Shinso covered his ears to try and drown out the yelling, only to notice an utterly massive Bibu beneath him. I just want to be part of your skibidi-ithii, the giant Bibu yelled, Shinso screaming as he descended into her open mouth. Shinso! Huh? He opened his eyes to see Aizawa standing there. You gotta become a Hirurash, Aizawa's tongue turned into a carpet that proceeded to roll out of his mouth and down the hallway as Aizawa's arms and legs extended until he looked like a giant, four-legged spider who proceeded to crawl up the ceiling. Shinso blinked and he was standing on a floating house. What made the house weird was the abundance of doors. Most of them didn't even lead anywhere and quite a few of them were freestanding. Cautiously he opened one. A short, shadow-covered person appeared, staring at him with white eyes. "Boatgosbintd." Shinso screamed, and he was falling again. Then he stumbled into a room that was empty save for a single toilet in the center. Then a head popped out of the toilet. "You enjoying the ride, friendo?" Shinso screamed. In reality, skibbity, skibbity. Shinso was in a fetal position, rocking back and forth, his eye bags somehow looking worse than normal. "I will have him placed in the same mental health facility Aizawa was." Ned's amused. "What about what Midoriya told us?" It sounds like Aizawa leaked sensitive information to Shinso. Tashinori spoke up. "I will look into it. I can also say for certain that any chance Shinso had of joining the hero course, slim as it may have been, was forfeited when he tried to illegally use his quirk on Midoriya. Shame. Mineta had just been booted to Gen Ed 2. The only reason the pervert wasn't expelled outright was because he didn't actually manage to go through with that little stunt of his, though Nedza gave it a matter of time before he screwed up. Kaminari, on the other hand, was on thin ice. "Sticking your giant for Narisler," Shinso whimpered. The crowd was practically roaring with excitement as Izumi and Minoma stepped out onto the field. "So, you're the one who beat that bioengineered monster?" Minoma scoffed. "Don't go patting yourself on the back. I'll be glad to knock you arrogant 1A dogs off of your self-built pedestal." Izumi tilted her head. "Begin." Minoma lunged forward and grabbed Izumi's wrist. Izumi just stared curiously as he leapt back. "Aha!" The boy cackled. "You stupid, naive girl. Now witness in awe and terror as I wield your own power against you." There was a flash. The crowd went silent, staring. "What the F is this?" The turtle cried. Vidal 987. Best Tech Sundra. "What the F dash?" Vidal cried. Hold on. What can I even dash?" There was a pop as a bottle of banana rum appeared beside him. "God damn it, how do I change back? Whoa hey. It's a turtle!" The purple-eyed cat girl exclaimed. "Fillion. The author honestly worries she's gonna get herself seriously hurt one of these days." "Put me down." The turtle whined. Fillion set him down. Upside down. "God damn it." Vidal complained as he flailed his legs. Fillion nudged him with her foot, causing him to spin. Stop." Fillion kept nudging him, spinning him faster and faster. "Stop. For F's sake, stop." "But okay, I yield. I give up. Stop or I'm gonna puke." Nito Minoma has forfeited. Izumi Midoriya is the winner. Midnight called. Izumi walked out to the confused cheers. Overall, the first round matches were interesting. Lemon had used her quirk to compel Uraraka to walk out of the ring. Tetsu's quirk had proven to have an advantage over Itsuka Kendo's, and Kinoko had sent the Vine Girl from 1B screaming out of the ring by growing mushrooms in her hair. Soon enough, they were ready to move to the second round matches. Izumi was paired against Eijiro Kirishima. How would Izumi go up against this knockoff simp Tetsu wannabe? Well, let's roll the dice and find out. "You there, girl." Izumi turned. It was Endeavor. According to Todoroki, he was an abusive scumbag. "Sorry, sir. Only students and staff are allowed in this area. I will speak with you here and now." "Ah, you seem to be under the delusion that you can do whatever you want just because you're a step below All Might." Endeavor's flames flared. "What did you just say to me? Are you going deaf?" "Must be from yelling all the time." Endeavor seared before forcing his flames down. "You have quite a powerful and versatile quirk, don't you, girl?" "Wouldn't know. Haven't even come close to its full potential. But we would say we could probably take on a top 10 hero with ease." "Is that right?" The man grinned, and it made Izumi want to punch him. In that case, you would be best suited as my Shoto's bride. Pass. This is not up for debate, girl. Says you. Besides, we're not even into guys. Irrelevant. Pretty sure that's completely relevant, so we'll just say this. Izumi's eyes turned red. Take whatever eugenics plan you have involving me, and shove it up your micro-du flaming can of garbage. Do you have any idea who you're talking to, you ungrateful CNT? I'll ruin you. Will you now? A large hand clapped into Endeavor's shoulder. All might. The flaming septic tank growled. Endeavor. Trespassing is one thing, but I will not stand idly by and let you threaten my students. All Might wasn't smiling. You know, not just this area, you are barred from the campus. And remember that you're on security cameras. Endeavor snarled, turning on his heel and storming out. All Might looked at Midoriya, red eyes staring back, as if analyzing. Well, I will make sure he does not try to stick around. You have a match to get to, young lady. The crowd was excited, mostly to see what Izumi would pull out this time. Kirishima hated it. Bakugo had told him of her true nature, that she was a narcissistic sociopath who looked down on those she viewed as weak. He had told him how she had killed people, and yet here she was, clearly favored by the teachers and quickly becoming a fan favorite at the sports festival. It was disgusting and unmanly. Kirishima had tried to explain things to his classmates, but for some reason he couldn't fathom. Most of them seemed to hate Bakugo. Even Minoma didn't seem that fond of him. At least Uraraka seemed to have her head on straight. But what really set Kirishima off was how Midoriya had somehow manipulated Mina into thinking she was a nice person. He was going to beat her and reveal her true self to the world, for Mina's sake. Midnight called for the match to start, but before Kirishima could even take a step, lighting flashed overhead. Wait, what? It was bright and sunny out. Sure, there was a few clouds, but nowhere near enough for rain. Thick smoke clouded the arena, obscuring his vision. What's up, everyone? A new voice called out. I am Chaos. The end of end. A steel rose trapped in a cage of ice. Kirishima looked around wildly for the source of the voice that seemed to be everywhere at once, echoing through the stadium, lights flashing through the smoke as lightning cracked in the sky. Your best friend. Bales Hakos of Izumi Midoriya's Quirk. There was a loud rumbling as the smoke cleared, revealing a red-haired girl standing on a stone podium that definitely wasn't there before. Witness me. Hakos Bales. 30% rat, 69% coffee, 1% redacted. The crowd exploded with excited cheers as Bei posed to cap off the over-the-top entrance. Kirishima grimaced, rushing at her in an attempt to knock her out. Bei effortlessly maneuvered around his punches. Her movements like an energetic dance. At one point she flipped out of the way of his punch, but seemed to stop, upside down in midair, pretty much telling the laws of physics to F off as she grinned, cupping his face. You mad brew! Kirishima threw another punch, which missed when her momentum resumed. So why do you hang around Bakugo anyway? He's kind of a D-dash, you know? I know Bakugo's rough around the edges, but he a good person who's determined to become a great hero. Bei stared at him for a moment, then started laughing. Ah, thanks bro. I needed that. Kirishima growled as he tried to punch her, only for her to again dodge. But yeah, I know she said you we delusional, but still. You're like a manga fan who treats a-hole characters like the second coming of Jesus. Bakugo told me about you. What you did. Villains like you have no place here dash. Yeah. Bakugo's delusions and all that jazz. Stop talking. I mean, I like to yap. You got a problem? Bei held up her hand, and a pair of cubes formed in it. Now then, let's play dice. What dash? Bei tossed the cubes, letting them roll. Even or odds? Who gets the advantage? Numbers flashed on the cubes, then combined. Speed boost. Nice. That's how old I am. Wait, what dash? An aura appeared around Bei. Then she was behind Kirishima. Peekaboo. Kirishima turned around, only for Bei to jump into the air. Don't look up my skirt. Kirishima, being someone who prided himself on chivalry despite the fact that he was a delusional bully sympathizer, looked down to avoid. Peeking. Bei slammed her foot into his head, sending him face first into the concrete. Dice again. Bei cackled, throwing the dice once more. 31. Power boost. Oh. That's how old I am. I thought you were 26? I'm as old as the dice say I am. Kirishima went to speak, only to be surrounded by a red aura. W dash. Even numbers, I get an advantage. Odd numbers, you get the advantage. Bei explained. That's just how it works. It's all up to the dice. Kirishima felt angry as he sat down. No. I don't want your advantages. Kirishima, are you refusing to fight? Midnight asked. How long will this last? Kirishima asked. About 5 minutes. Bei shrugged. Then she was in his face with a marker. I can wait, she said as she started drawing on him. Kirishima sat there, seething and wanting so badly to punch this villain in the face. But he couldn't. He would win under his own power, not something given to him by a manipulative serial killer. Time. Bei leapt back as the aura faded. Kirishima, face covered in fake mustaches and doodles, stood up angrily. All right, we're ending this now. That's up for the dice to decide. No, wait dash. Bei threw the dice. 100. Unlock new persona. Bei looked giddy. Ooh, I wonder who it is. Then there was a flash. And Kirishima found his body seized with pure terror at what Midoriya had become. Standing before him, could only be described as the devil herself. The devil stood, turning to face him, eyes gleaming. Usada Pecora. What? Were you expecting someone else? You honestly think I'd waste her debut on Kirisimpa of all people? Hiya Pico. She grinned. Kirishima stepped back and promptly stepped on a landmine that wasn't there before. The explosion sent him flying, his quirk protecting him from the worst as he slammed face first into the concrete. He rolled onto his back just in time to see the rabbit girl in the air. She landed on his chest, Kirishima having all the air knocked out of his lungs as a small crater appeared beneath him. Then she started jumping up and down on his chest, each impact making the crater deeper and deeper, Kirishima's quirk being the only reason he was still alive. Konpiko! Konpiko! Konpiko dash! Pecora stopped when Midnight moved out a hand, retreating as the woman checked on Kirishima. Kirishima, can you continue? I can fight. Kirishima wheezed as he dragged himself out of the crater. An insanely difficult task when all of your ribs are shattered. I can still what the F dash. Bye-bye. Pecora sang as she fired the rocket launcher she was holding. The rocket had a pair of bunny ears attached. The rocket slammed into Kirishima's face, launching him back into the crater. Midnight, shouldn't we get Midoriya to restrain herself? Cementos asked over the comms. I'm honestly scared to try. Midnight responded as Kirishima crawled out of the crater again, missing a few teeth and with his left eye black and swollen shut. Agan Fai. Aga. Kirishima's voice was so slurred that Midnight could barely understand him. Pecora handed him a carrot. Hold this please. Pecora chirped as she walked away. Kirishima stared at the carrot. The carrot exploded. I'm calling it. Midoriya wins. Midnight announced, watching as Kirishima feebly tried to crawl out of the crater again. Pretty hard to do when over 75% of your bones were broken. Pecora happily skipped out of the arena. Midnight shook her head, then for a short break while the arena was repaired. Where's Ida, Pico? Pecora asked as she walked into the box reserved for Class 1A. He apparently had a family emergency and had to leave. Yaoyorozu explained. Once the arena was repaired, the rest of the round continued until finally they were ready to move on to the semifinals. Semifinal matchups. Katsuki Bakugo vs. Lily Yosei. Izumi Midoriya vs. Toguro Kamakiri. It was the first match of the semifinals where things started to go wrong. Lemon tried to use her quirk to compel Bakugo to leave the ring, but Bakugo had already caught onto the act and attacked relentlessly. Lemon, for her part, proved she wasn't over-reliant on her quirk and actually put up a good fight. This, however, caused Bakugo to get more and more angry at the fact that she just wouldn't stay down. Spewing vitriolic threats at the girl. It culminated in Lemon looking Bakugo in the eye and calling him a bully and a villain. Bakugo snapped. The next thing anyone knew, the crowd was screaming as Bakugo was on top of the girl, violently attacking and blasting to the point that Midnight had to forcibly pull him off of the girl after ignored several warnings to stop, and then proceeded to slap him on live TV when he tried to rush back in. Izumi Midoriya was eerily quiet as Lemon's broken body was wheeled out on a stretcher while Midnight chewed an uncaring Bakugo out. Izumi left the box. Recovery Girl barely had time to look over Lemon's injuries, just knowing she would most likely need to be hospitalized, when the door slammed open, and the elderly woman was caught in the blast of fire which actually healed her back problems. Lemon shot up, her severe injuries fully healed as she looked around, gasping and wondering what was going on. Kiara transformed back into Izumi as Nedzu walked in. After that little stunt, I don't think the crowd would complain if we were to disqualify Bakugo. He explained. No, Izumi said. He won't learn anything. The match goes on. Are you sure? Positive. Izumi's eyes flashed red as she stalked out to her own match. Kamakiri was a blood knight. He reminded her of Bakugo. So you're one as ace, huh? He cracked his knuckles. Well, guess what, your little dash. Walk out of the ring now. Kamakiri squeaked, all the bravado and arrogance gone as he looked Izumi in the eyes, before turning tail and fleeing before Midnight could even call the match. She hesitantly announced Izumi the winner. Izumi turned and walked out, deep in her. Thus, Bakugo, I was going to go easy on you, humble you. But now, you haven't changed at all. You've gotten worse. Now, beating you won't be enough. I'm going to ruin you, humiliate you. Because that's all you deserve for hurting my friend. You thought the sports festival was your chance to shine? To make a big boom? Well, I'm going to make a bigger boom than you could ever hope to achieve. And the swarm will help me see it through. Izumi's eyes changed to red, but they were noticeably a darker red than normal as a smug little smirk stretched across her face. Boom. Mihi. Shota Aizawa was not amused with the sports festival. It only served to prove just how much Yue was falling apart without his guidance. And that Midoriya brat. That girl was making an utter mockery of the whole thing. First there was her helping students in the first event. Idiots. If they couldn't figure things out themselves, they would never get anywhere in life. Coddling them was only going to make things more difficult in the long run. Then there was her excessive brutality against Shinso in the second event. If he were still a teacher, he would have disqualified and expelled her on the spot. It only served to prove how much more heroic Shinso was. On top of that, it was clear the girl was over-reliant on her quirk. Aizawa had at least taught Shinso some hand-to-hand. The only possible way she could have beaten him was that she had cheated. Shinso must be upset at the blatant injustice. He wasn't answering his phone. Aizawa couldn't blame him. It just wasn't fair. He could at least take solace in the fact that one boy, Katsuki Bakugo, had made it all the way to the final match. The boy had a powerful quirk that he could rely on, and it was clear he had a heroic spirit. Aizawa just wished people weren't so stupid. All over the news people were talking about excessive brutality that Bakugo had used against that Yosei girl. It was clear Bakugo was showing her the utmost respect by not holding back. The girl apparently saw fit to complain about it. And now people were demanding Bakugo be unjustly disqualified. If anything, it was Yosei's fault for not being good enough. If she was Aizawa's student, he would have booted her out day one. Teach her that life wasn't fair and that her actions had consequences. Aizawa could at least take solace in the fact that Bakugo was set to win it all. The thing about Katsuki Bakugo, he was skilled and determined. Izumi would admit that. Though personally she would replace determined with the most unbelievably stubborn jackass she had ever had the displeasure of meeting. But he was also temperamental and impatient. Izumi honestly believed that if given a chance, he would charge into a hostage situation, willfully putting the hostages at risk just because he got sick of waiting. Izumi was going to use that to her advantage. She would draw the match out as much as she could. Let Bakugo get angrier and angrier, let him get sloppy in. His frustration and impatience. All while Izumi made a fool of him on live TV. Surprisingly, Monama turning into Vidal had caused the twin shadows to stir in their slumber. So she would let them awaken. This would be a spectacle to remember. Izumi and Bakugo took their places in the ring, the blonde sneering at her like she was a piece of filth stuck to the bottom of his shoe. He also seemed agitated at the fact that the crowd was booing him. "You're effing dead, Deku. You hear me?" Bakugo growled. "Bakugo!" Midnight shut off her mic. "I'm going to say this once. The only reason this match is going through is because Midoriya insisted on it. I see even a hint of a repeat of your last match, and you'll be disqualified on the spot and possibly removed from the hero course. Is that clear?" Bakugo snarled, looking away. Of course, that FNG murderer was interfering in his origin story. He'd show her. He'd put her in her place once and for all. "Ready?" Midnight's mic was back on. "Start." Before Bakugo could even take a step, the stadium was silenced as the retractable ceiling, normally used in cases of bad weather, closed on its own, plunging the stadium into darkness to everyone's confusion. Then the spotlights kicked on. Standing there, holding a microphone, was a brown-haired girl in a black school uniform. Evil Neuro. The evil one. Then the music started and pyrotechnics kicked on. She's been told before. No one does it like her. Automated war. I'm the newest king of your tragedy. War. See the consequences. War. It was your decision. War. Submit to me my mission. War. Praise me. Take you all to my new nirvana. You got what you wanted. Blood runs on me. Come alive. And now I'll tear you. Dude. You said I'm crazy. Here's insane. I swear I'll put you all to shame. In the end it was just too effing good to regret. Regret, rigor. Did she just flip him off? No. Snapping out of his stupor, Bakugo charged with an angry shout. Evil snapped her fingers, and a bunch of metal pipes fell out of nowhere, crashing onto Bakugo. Elevated, a new predator. I'm the apex and you made it so. I'm a god now when I level up. Oh, think I like it, I'm so destructive, hear my voices. When you realize you're all doomed. Take you all to my new nirvana, you got what you wanted. Blood runs on me, come alive. And now I'll tear you. You said I'm crazy, here's Ian Sinan. I swear I'll put you all to shame. In the end it was just too effing good to regret. Regret, rigor. Bakugo managed to push himself up when he noticed Midnight looking at something in the corner of the ring. There was an identical-looking girl in a yellow school uniform operating a switchboard, which explained the pyrotechnics. Neuro-sama. The evil one. Bakugo lunged at her, intent on taking advantage of her distraction to beat the shit out of her. Without even looking up, Neuro socked Bakugo in the jaw, sending him tumbling. But boom, boom. I'll make you scream my name louder than ya. Boom, boom. I'll come alive now. The crowd was now excitedly waving around glow sticks that had mysteriously appeared under their seats. Monoma for some reason felt a sense of paternal pride that he was highly tempted to underplay with heavy tsunderness. As she continued singing, Evil proceeded to walk on Katsuki. She was treating him like a stepping stone. Bakugo roared, only for Evil to slam her foot down on his head, dazing him. Silly me, I guess I lost control. Out of mind, out of body. Nobody knows. What's in my soul? Boom. You said I'm crazy, here's insane. I'll come Ollie live now. Boom. Say my name louder than yuff. Boom. Now I'll do ye. Doin'. You said I'm crazy, here's insane. I swear I'll put you all to shame. In the end it was just too effing good to regret. Regret, rigor. The music came to an end as the crowd roared with excitement at the impromptu concert. Deku, Bakugo snarled, lunging at Evil. Bakugo squeaked, collapsing to the ground and holding his crotch in agony as Neuro stood over him. Neuro then grabbed at Bakugo's waistband, yanking his underwear up and over his head in an atomic wedge. Then Evil dropped pipes on him. 3 more times. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun. Are you experiencing the joy of metal pipes, Neuro? Evil asked. Pipes can't even begin to compare to spinning. Neuro retorted as she began spinning. On the y-axis. Somehow. Don't be a donut. Obviously booming is superior. Boom. The air around Bakugo randomly exploded. Maybe we should ask Minnie or Camila to settle this debate for us. I'm pretty sure they aren't even awake yet. Evil responded. Oh my god, you're right. We should try waking them up. Maybe running them over will help. Do you think Doobie would care if we borrowed her train? That's an amazing idea. Stop ignoring me. Bakugo shouted as he launched at them. The two casually sidestepped the explosion. Do you hear something evil? I think there's a bee in here. We might have to burn this whole place down. Neuro stated. This is all just a FNG joke to you, isn't it, Deku? Bakugo snarled. All of it was just a FNG joke to you. Aldra and Auntie. Neuro and Evil froze, eyes flashing green as they suddenly transformed back into Izumi. The air seemed to grow heavy, so thick you could choke on it as Izumi slowly turned toward Bakugo. For years. Izumi said. I had to endure your abuse for 4 years. She took a step toward. When your quirk came in and mine didn't, suddenly you were the hottest sheet around and I was a subhuman freak. You're the reason Henya doesn't like to manifest very much. You beat me, burned me, scarred me without a hint of remorse. You enjoyed every minute of it under the delusion that I was looking down on you. Even after my quirk finally came in, nothing changed. I thought we could be friends again, but I honestly don't think we ever were friends to begin with. And after all that, after all the abuse you subjected me to for your own sick amusement, you have the nerve, the sheer effing audacity, to call my mom Auntie? It's not my fault she had an abnormal freak for a daughter. Izumi's eyes flickered red, only to suddenly go back to green. Stay out of this gore. This is my fight. Bakugo lunged, arm out for a big right hook. Another thing about Bakugo. He was over-reliant on his quirk to a fault. Pretty much all of his moves had his quirk involved in some way, even the punch he threw, having used his quirk to propel himself toward her. He was also predictable, always starting fights with a big right hook. Let it be known that despite Aizawa's delusions, Izumi was not over-reliant on her quirk. She had spent 6 years training her body and fighting skills in her base form. She dodged under the right hook, grabbing Bakugo's arm and judo flipping him. Bakugo wheezed as all the air was knocked out of him. Izumi hooked her leg around his arm, using one of her arms to pin his other arm down. Go ahead then. Bakugo snarled. Let that effing shark beach out. Show everyone the villain you are. Izumi punched the underside of his jaw, causing him to bite his own tongue hard enough to draw blood. Stop pretending you care about that. Izumi snarled. You don't give a shit about anyone but yourself. What happened 6 years ago? I still have nightmares to this day. I bet you never even thought about it until you saw I was attending you. Just admit everything you do is because you effing hate me, and stop using their deaths as an excuse. Izumi laid into him, punching his face over and over again. After seeing Bakugo's thuggish and borderline sociopathic behavior the entire festival, the crowd cheered as Izumi beat him black and blue. Get off! Bakugo managed to let loose an explosion that caused Izumi to stumble off. Izumi merely glared at him, Bakugo's face bruised and swollen. You think you're so effing great, Deku? You've always been looking down on me. I do look down on you. Izuku interrupted. But not for the reasons you think. You think I look down on you because I think I'm better. The truth is, I look down on you because you're a petty, spoiled, narcissistic sociopath with delusions of being a hero, who doesn't hesitate to beat anyone up for calling him out on his bullshit, who spent the majority of his life receiving praise he doesn't deserve. I look down on you because you're the physical manifestation of everything that's wrong with this society, Bakugo. Izumi gestured to the crowd. These people? They don't love you. They've seen what you are. They see you as I see you. Izuku sneered. You're not a hero, Bakugo. You have never been a hero, to me or to anyone else who hasn't deluded themselves like Kirishima and Uraraka. All you are, and all you've ever been, is a iffy villain. It was as if a switch was flipped. You're effing dead, you. C&T. Bakugo roared, spit flying as he launched himself at Izumi. Izumi transformed. Senzawa waved her hand, and Bakugo stumbled back as water flew in from nowhere, latching onto his hand. Then, everyone stared in awe as the giant pool from the second event shifted, 40,000 tons of water lifting and covering the ring, the crowd shocked at the display of power as the water engulfed Bakugo, wrapping around his hands and lifting him into the air, the water diluting his sweat and pretty much nullifying his quirk. "Fight me! Fight me!" "No," was all Senzawa said as the massive wave of water punched Bakugo in the gut, launching him out of the ring and sending him tumbling across the field. Bakugo pushed himself up, coughing as the dreaded words reached him. "Bakugo is out of bounds. The winner of the sports festival is Izumi Midoriya." No, it wasn't possible. The crowd exploded into cheers, celebrating Deku of all people as Senzawa transformed back into Izumi. It wasn't possible. He was Katsuki Fang Bakugo. He was the best of the best. Meant to surpass all might and become the greatest hero who ever lived. Celebrated by all even hundreds of years from now, and feared by villains all over. He was the strongest. There was no effing way he had lost this. Izumi turned and began to walk out of the ring. She turned her back on him like the coward she was. Deku. Bakugo launched himself across the arena faster than Midnight or Cementos could react. Izumi turned. The cheers turned into screams as the explosion launched her back. They could all see it. The camera hadn't cut away in time. Izumi Midoriya had her face blown off on live TV, body tumbling limply across the ground. Adults screamed and children cried as Midnight tackled Bakugo, other UA teachers leaping down from the stands to assist. "Let me go! Let me go! She deserved it. The deserved it. Do you hear me? I'm the hero of this story. Not her. I'm a hero." Bakugo screamed, throat raw. Then a light appeared from Izumi's body. The crowd watched as it returned to her body. In a flash, Izumi's body disappeared. "I'm back." Bakugo stilled. It wasn't possible. All eyes went to the pixelated figure on the monitors. Minoribug. The AMD Ryzen 9 boasts 12 cores alongside 24 processing threads, with a CPU speed of 4.8 GHz, allowing optimal performance on both Linux and Windows. Praise to the AMD Ryzen 9. All hail our Lord and Savior the AMD Ryzen 9. Hi there. I'm Bug. And right now, I just aired all of your dirty laundry onto the internet. Bug spoke happily. Some might say that was a bit excessive, but you did kinda blow my face off a moment ago, so I'd say it evens out. To prove her point, clips popped up on screen, taken from both cell phone recordings and security cameras that showed Bakugo throughout the years. Bullying, beating, illegal quirk usage, suicide baiting, everything was shown. It also showed how Bakugo's teachers did nothing to curb his behavior. In fact, they actively encouraged it. It even showed Bakugo's favorite victim. A girl with silvery blue hair whose quirks seemed to allow it to defy gravity. It showed how she had even been hospitalized several times from Bakugo's abuse, but nothing was ever done because of her weak quirk, not wanting to ruin the future of a potential hero. Just like that, Bakugo's fate was sealed, dragged kicking and screaming out of the arena in cuffs to await the police as the crowd exploded at how someone like him not only got into UA, but into their prestigious hero course as well. Nedza laughed. He wasn't worried. He had already prepared everything necessary in case something like this happened. He had all the evidence necessary to prove that Bakugo's records had been faked. It wouldn't completely quash the backlash UA would receive. People always found something to complain about after all, but it would limit it. If anything, the backlash would be diverted to Bakugo's previous schools that enabled his behavior, allowing him to become the sociopath everyone saw today. As for Izumi, the author had Bug revert back into her when the android started snooping through his files to discover that Izumi would be unlocking a certain dragon on Island. Izumi turned and walked out of the arena, not caring as Bakugo raged. She was done with him, and she was only looking forward to what the future would bring. Due to the incident at the sports festival, the awards ceremony wasn't held. The students were merely given their medals and ushered home quickly so UA could deal with the shitstorm Bakugo's behavior had kicked up. During this time, the HPSC was in a tizzy. President Swordwalk was of course set at the loss of someone with so much potential, or whatever delusions she had cooked up. Her secretaries had to convince her that pulling Bakugo out of prison with a full pardon was a terrible idea, given his horrible reputation with the public and the fact he had committed attempted murder on live TV. It would only serve to make the commission look complacent in his behavior. So she was forced to wait for a new opportunity to present itself, however long that would take. Lemon was having fun. She had invited Midoriya to one of her streams, and the fans loved her for her unique quirk and her many unique personalities. "We sound exactly alike?" Lemon read the comment. She and Fauna looked at each other. "I'm not hearing it." Fauna stated. "Me neither." Lemon shrugged. And there were plenty of fun moments. "Haha frick." Fillion buried her face in her hands. "After all, this was you laugh, you lose." And she laughed. "All right, snackers. Let's spin the wheel." She groaned as she promptly spun her wheel of punishments. "Get zapped." "Get zapped? Frick. All right, let me get the shock collar FU. A green rift had opened behind Fillion as she was suddenly pelted with electrical arrows. The rift snapped shut as she whirled around, looking for whatever the frick had just zapped her. Lemon just laughed from her spot, having no idea what just happened either. Then she realized she laughed. So she needed to spin the wheel. Oops. At least the chat was having fun. Nijaya-chan. Hey, weird, that looked like you use Quirk. And of course, the chat would want more. Make our own channel? Izumi blinked. We'll think it over. But the biggest highlight came towards the end, when Izumi's Quirk decided to randomly unlock a new persona. Lemon had to admit, being cursed out in Spanish by a banana yellow cat girl carrying a gun was surprisingly fun. One student arrested for attempted murder, another being the abused son of the number 2 hero. Midnight buried her face in her hands. This sports festival could have gone a hell of a lot better. Not to mention pretty much the whole world saw Midoriya resurrecting on live TV. Vlad spoke up. "We managed to divert attention by claiming that one of Midoriya's personas gave her a very powerful healing factor that can trigger in her base form in an emergency." Unlike the rest of the stressed-out staff, Nedzu was calmly sipping tea. Which is technically true, though I do worry the commission may keep a closer eye on her. As for Bakugo, while we haven't completely diffused the criticism, we did manage to greatly lessen in thanks to proof that not only did Bakugo's previous schools enable his behavior, but even falsified his and other students' records to hide it. Needless to say, the Aldra School District won't be around much longer. We were also able to provide proof that, in spite of what some might claim, UA did in fact attempt to curb Bakugo's behavior. It's one of the hardest truths of being a hero. Toshinori sighed. You can't save everyone, especially if they don't want to be saved. Okay, that's good, but what about Endeavor? Snipe spoke up. That is a hard question. He is number 2 in the rankings, so I definitely expect the commission to try and cover up his crimes. I don't like to use my influence to my advantage, Toshinori sighed. But if it means protecting my students, I'm willing to speak out against Endeavor. It's true that society would definitely take your word over the commission's, Nedzu mused. But we should save such extremes as a last resort, given how overdependent society is on heroes. We don't want to risk causing unnecessary damage. I do have an idea though. One that would get young Todoroki out from under Endeavor's thumb while we work to build a case against him, thus mitigating the damage. Files were passed out. Students' dorms? Vlad asked. Given recent events, namely the USJ and Bakugo, the dorm system can allow us to better keep an eye on students and even keep an eye out for how they behave outside of school hours. The rest of the faculty seemed interested. On top of this, young Todoroki will have mandatory sessions with Hound Dog if he wishes to remain in the hero course. The teachers all nodded. They were in agreement, though there is one other thing we must discuss. I'm sure you're all aware of what happened to Ingenium. A tense silence went over the room. I'd ask you all to keep an eye on Tenya Ida. We can't be sure how he'll handle this, though we do know he idolizes his brother. If need be, he too may be having sessions with Hound Dog. My apologies, Inui. No. It's what I signed up for. Hound Dog assured. Very well then. We'll set up meetings with the parents over student dorms during internship week. Take care to inform your students of this. Meeting adjourned. It was a few days later that school was back in session. Momo had gotten to school and was surprised to find Ida. Ida-kun, you're usually one of the first ones here. She gaped in surprise. Yaoyorozu, things have been hectic the past few days. Do not worry. It will not become a habit. Ida assured, though something seemed off about him. I heard about your brother Dash. It's fine. Ida interrupted. I assure you, everything is fine. In other words, he didn't want to talk about it. Now, let us enjoy yet another day of learning at one of Japan's finest Dash. He slammed the classroom door shut just as quickly as he opened it. Midoriya has a gun, I'm going back to bed. Ryukyu just so happened to come up at the moment and steered the two back to the classroom. Todos ustedes piensan que estoy jugando motherfrickers? Te voy a aplastar. Te golpear tan fuerte que tus padres lo sentirán. The banana yellow cat girl yelled while waving a Glock around. Nyana Banyana. Not even graduation will keep her out of this FIC, mamabichos. Jesus Christ Midoriya. Put that down. Kaminari begged. Oh, okay. Nyana said, lowering the gun as everyone eased up. Bang. Kaminari let out a high-pitched shriek as Nyana shot the floor just in front of him. You don't tell me what to do, Puta. Everyone in your seats. Ryukyu said calmly. K. Everyone jumped as Izumi, now in her base form, was now in her seat as fast as they could blink. Before we begin, I need to tell you all that UA is going to be transitioning in a dormitory system due to recent incidents. For the safety of the students, the dorms will be mandatory. She began passing out papers explaining. We will of course be discussing this with your parents during the week you're away at internships. I understand this is a big change, but don't worry. You probably won't be officially moved in until around the end of the first trimester. Once the papers were passed out, she stood at the front of the classroom. Now, as for internships, some of you did in fact receive requests. The numbers popped onto the board. Midoriya, Todoroki, Yosei, Ida, Azui, Tetsu, Ashido, Komori, they're usually a lot more spread out, but holy crap. I know Midoriya got first, but I didn't expect her to get so many. Kaminari exclaimed. I don't even think there's that many heroes in Japan, Karo. So you spoke up. Quite a few of Midoriya's offers came from other countries. Ryukyu explained. Sensei, isn't Yosei that Gen Ed girl? Jiro spoke up, catching everyone's attention. Hey, yeah, why's her name up there? Mina asked. Ryukyu smirked. Was wondering when you'd notice. You can come in now. The classroom door opened. Hello everyone. Lemon said brightly. Thanks to her performance in the sports festival, Yosei-san has been promoted to the hero course. I expect you all to treat your new classmate kindly. Most of the class cheered as Lemon took Mineta's old seat behind Izumi. Yep, everything was going good. I'm sorry. I just can't. Uraraka stuttered as she spoke to Kirishima. My parents aren't doing so well financially, and UA's tuition is really expensive. That's why I'm trying to become a hero, to help make things easier for them. Hey, it's all right. I understand. Kirishima nodded. When he had found out what had happened to Bakugo, he didn't believe it for a second. First, that Midoriya girl had doctored footage to make him look like some kind of bully, then she had to egg him on into attacking her to make him seem like some kind of psychopath. It wasn't right. Unfortunately, the rest of his classmates didn't see it that way. He tried to convince them to take a stand against this blatant injustice, but even Monoma told him to shut the F up and use his brain for once. Ever since he copied Midoriya's quirk, he'd been acting strange. At least Uraraka didn't seem to be brainwashed by Midoriya's lies. She knew Bakugo was a good person after he saved her from the zero-pointer. But he wouldn't ask her to join him if it meant hurting her parents like that. What the two of them didn't realize was that Bakugo didn't even know Uraraka was there and attacked the zero-pointer because he both saw it as a challenge and wasn't paying attention when Present Mike said it wasn't worth any points. Any rescue points he would have gotten were rendered void due to the fact that Uraraka had also gotten hurt from his blasts. He was going to try and talk some sense into Mina. He would get through to her. She had to see how Midoriya was trying to sabotage Bakugo's life for her own sadistic ends. Then she would join him in leaving UA to protest Bakugo's unjust treatment. Ida-kun. Ida paused, turning to see Midoriya walked up to him. Midoriya, what can I dash? We know what you're doing. Pardon? I don't. We figured it out. You're going to Hosu to hunt the hero killer. That's preposterous. Ida responded, starting to panic on the inside. And how did you know I was going to Hosu? That dash. Ida, listen carefully. Give up whatever vendetta you have with the hero killer before you get yourself killed. Kiara, we can heal your brother. You do realize how unorthodox this is. The doctor huffed as he reluctantly followed Izumi's instructions to reopen Tensei Ida's severed spine, needing to undo what healing had happened to get the best possible effect. We've had some of the best doctors in the country looked at him. Even Recovery Girl. They all deemed it impossible. Trust me, it'll work. Kiara responded. Tenya, are you sure about this? Tenya's mother asked worriedly. This friend of yours? I have seen Midoriya's Quirk do the impossible, mother. Tenya sighed. If anyone could do this, it would certainly be her. Tensei was currently put under just in case. Izumi said it wasn't necessary as the drags would just get burned out of his system anyway, but the doctor insisted. Reluctantly, the doctor stepped back to let Izumi work. Okay. Kiara grinned. The doctor jumped back in alarm while Tenya's parents screamed as flames engulfed Tensei. Don't worry. It won't hurt him. Unless I want it to. Kiara spoke up. The flames receded, and Tensei sat up, eyes wide in shock. What? He gasped. Did it work? Tenya's father asked. I don't know. Tensei looked at his legs worriedly. I'm kinda scared to test. Oh god, my shin. Tensei grabbed at the spot where Izumi had karate chopped him. It worked, she said brightly. The Ida parents were on their son instantly, tears of joy being wept as Izumi turned to leave. Would you be willing to answer some questions? The doctor asked, now suddenly very much interested in the fact that this girl just did the impossible. Nope. Izumi said as she transformed into mint and phased through the guy. The doctor recoiled at the feeling of ice throughout his body. Brother, Tenya stepped up. About your request, I don't think I can go through with it. Especially now that you're recovered. It's okay, Tenya. I understand. Tensei nodded solemnly. To be honest, I shouldn't have dumped the responsibility on you like that. You're free to choose your own name. Thank you, brother. So, internships should be coming up soon. Got anyone picked out? This hero. Tenya held out the form. It was one of the conditions Midoriya had for healing Tensei. Tenya would retract his internship in Hosu and come in turn under the same hero as her. She said that it was to make absolutely sure he didn't try to hunt down the hero killer in spite of Tensei being healed. Tenya reluctantly agreed, and surprisingly, both Ryukyu-sensei and Principal Nedzu helped put the whole thing together. Tensei raised an eyebrow. Really? This one? Doesn't seem like your style. Midoriya said something about how it could help pull that stick out of my rear. He chopped his hand. But I assure you I have nothing shoved up my rectum. Tensei laughed. Tenya, she's saying that you're too stiff. Honestly, I agree this might be good for you. You've always been so fixated on living up to my example, but it would be good for you to loosen up. I see. You cannot be serious. Mina glared at Kirishima with a mix of hurt and anger. You cannot seriously still be defending that Bakugo guy after the sports festival. Please, Mina. I know you don't like bullies, that's why you of all people should be able to see that Midoriya's deceiving you. All those videos were just faked to ruin Bakubro's life. I don't like bullies, and that's why I can see Bakugo for the psycho he is. Mina snapped. What the f, Ijiro? What is about that guy that's got you so blinded? Please. He's not a bad person. Kirishima pleaded. Do you know the stuff he said about Midoriya? She's a murderer, Mina. And what? You're just gonna accept everything he says about someone you barely even know? Without even trying to get her side of the story? I know you, Ijiro. You cannot seriously be blinded by this Bakugo guy. I know you watched the recaps of the sports festival. He brutalized Yosei. She would have ended up in the hospital if Midoriya hadn't healed her. I'm sure Bakugo had a justified reason for it. Please. You're the only one who can still see sense in this. Leave UA with me so we can protest Bakugo's unjust treatment dash. Slap. Kirishima stumbled back, red mark appearing on his cheek. You know what, Kirishima? If you really want to throw away your life and future for that FING sociopath, then just go. But leave me out of this. And don't even think about calling me when things go wrong. But dash. Go. There was a moment of silence, before Kirishima reluctantly sulked off in defeat towards the principal's office. Once he was out of earshot, Mina allowed herself to cry. He had made his choice and she hers. Ingenium fully recovers, will return to active duty soon. No. That's impossible. Stain sneered as he read the article. Indeed, he had made absolutely sure to sever that fake spinal cord. There was no possible way he could have recovered. Ingenium was weak, and he took on sponsorships to satiate his greed, but he still had a good record, and that was the only reason Stain had let him live, if in a state he was unable to continue tainting the name of heroes. But now, against all odds, some miracle healer that the papers kept anonymous managed to undo his work. It infuriated the hero killer. Stain had scoped out the Ida 10 agency, but security had been pretty much tripled, as if they fully expected the hero killer to come and finish the job. They should be afraid. After he found this miracle healer and ended their life for enabling this fake, he was going to find Ingenium and finish the job once and for all, for having the nerve to continue sullying the name of heroes like nothing had happened. Time passed, and the week of internships came. Ryukyu-sensei had seen them off at the station, warning them to behave themselves and to not put on their costumes until their mentors said otherwise. Izumi and Ida were sat awkwardly on the train. Ah, right, Midoriya, my parents and brother asked me to give you this as thanks for what you did. Ida said as he rummaged through his bag. Ida, we don't want any reward. Izumi assured. I suspected as much, but my family insisted on at least giving you something. He held out a boxed action figure, which Izuku immediately swiped. Oh wow. A mint-condition first-run figure of your father. The retired former head of the Ida 10 agency, the speed hero, Ajira. These are impossible to find nowadays since only 2,000 were ever shipped due to a filing error. You certainly know your stuff. Ida coughed, surprised at Midoriya's knowledge. Midoriya, I've been meaning to ask, why do you seem so fidgety today? Indeed, the girl seemed oddly antsy. Been like that since last night. Maybe we'll unlock a new persona soon. Well then, as long as she's not as chaotic as Nyana. Izumi's eyes flickered pink as she gave a sharp-toothed grin. I'll be so much worse. It sent a shudder down Ida's spine. Eventually, they got off the train. Right? This way. Izumi started leading Tenya in a random direction. Midoriya, you haven't even looked at the map. How do you know we're going in the right direction? Intuition. Ida blanched. I still think we should look at the map. Tried, just made our head hurt. Maybe it's the unawakened persona's influence. Here we are. Indeed, they had somehow arrived at their destination. Ida was baffled. Despite Midoriya's attempts to barge right in, Ida did manage to knock on the door. After a moment of waiting, they walked in. Hello? Is anyone there? This is Midoriya and Ida. We are here for our internships. Ida called out. Silence. Maybe they went out dash. Izumi transformed into Mint just in time for a foot to phase through her, striking Ida in the jaw instead and sending him to the ground. Nice reflexes, girly. This is gonna be fun. The hero grinned down at Ida as he picked himself off the floor. So you're Ingenium's little bro, huh? Gotta admit, I really only took you on cause the girl bargained for it. See, I don't really take on interns, but when Greenie here turned into that crazy blue rabbit chick during the sports festival, I just had to get my hands on her. But don't worry. Our fighting styles are pretty compatible, so you won't be leaving empty-handed. She smirked viciously. Now get up. You two are gonna fight me. Thus began their internship with the number 5 hero, Mirko. Ida wheezed as he hit the ground for the 37th time. Yes, he had been keeping count. Not giving up, are you, squirt? Mirko grinned down at him. Ida pushed himself up, launching another kick that the woman easily countered. Your movements are sloppy. You're angry. What? Tell me what's pissing you off, cub. The whole thing with your brother? Tenya grimaced. He's going to recover, but still, the hero killer is known to target those he deems false heroes. So the fact that he targeted your brother feels like an unforgivable offense. Yes. You want to hunt down the hero killer and take revenge. Ida remained silent. I get it, kid. You're set off. You want vengeance. You can't possibly understand how I feel. Maybe not, but I know what it's like to be angry. When I was your age, everyone treated me like a dainty little girl because of my quirk. Set me off to no end. That's why I trained as hard as I did, even ended up participating in some underground fighting rings. Taught me a few things about anger. Mirko grinned. Control. It's okay to be angry, kid, but the second you let that anger take hold and control you, you've lost. She stood. Now, get up and go cool down for a bit. Tonight, I'm taking you personally out on patrol. Then her grin turned feral as she called out. Midoriya, get over here. I'm gonna teach you how to rip someone's head off with your thighs. Midoriya had been asked to stay back so Mirko could deal with Ida personally. The green-haired girl was actually surprisingly receptive. She had become increasingly hyperactive since the internship started, so Ida was surprised she would even be able to sit still. The sun was setting when they left the temporary agency. According to Mirko, night was when villains were more prevalent. Ida had of course protested the fact that she was having him fight villains unlicensed, only for Mirko to ask him what he intended to do when he got to Hosu. Ida was silent. Kid, the purpose of this little outing is to help you get that stick out of your butt and hopefully vent your anger. What do you mean by that? You're trying to model yourself after your brother, but I've met Ingenium and he's never been so uptight and pompous. Ida frowned. That was when they heard a scream. Let's go. Ida took off after the rabbit heroine. They came upon an alley, where they found a woman pinned to the wall by a guy who was tearing at her clothes. Go for it, kid. I'll back you up. Remember. Control. Ida blanched, moving forward. Excuse me, sir. Release that woman at once and come quietly. God damn it, kid. Mirko sighed. The F-dash? Are you some kid playing dress-up? The would-be RPST asked. His voice was slurred and his breath reeked of alcohol. Help. He has a knife. The overly tall fox woman screamed. Shut the hell up, you demon mutant. The criminal backhanded her. You got a nice figure, but that's all you're good for, freak. Ida grimaced, stepping into the light. Sir, you do not want to make this worse on yourself. Drop the weapon and surrender. If you harm that woman, dash. The hell's with that getup? You supposed to be some Ingenium cosplayer? But my costume is modeled after Ingenium, yes. The criminal laughed. FID, seriously? That guy's a loser. Couldn't even beat the DMN hero killer. Ida grit his teeth at the guy's laughter. The weakling went and got himself thrown in the hospital. Some hero, take. The man's hand shattered from Ida's kick, his knife clattering to the ground. The F-dash? The man's hand glowed red-hot as he lunged. I said, Ida's leg locked around the man's arm as he pinned the guy. Get away from her. Ida froze at the hand on his shoulder. All right, kid, that's enough. Guy's out cold. Ida blinked. The man's face was bruised and his jaw was clearly broken. They made sure the woman, Ms. Josie, was okay, then handed the guy over to the police. Surprisingly, Ida didn't get in trouble. I went overboard, I should be punished. He insisted. Fuck it. Sometimes breaking some bones is necessary when incapacitating a villain. I do it all the time. Hell, sometimes if it gets bad enough you may have to cripple them or even resort to lethal force. He did not like the sound of that. Still, I lost control dash. You retained enough control to stop when I got your attention. That's good. And you gotta admit, letting loose like that felt good, didn't it? A little. Still angry? Luckily, the night's still young. They spent the next few hours beating up villains. Ida cut loose, but not to the extent he did with the first guy. He had to admit, letting loose like that, shedding the rigid persona he had built around himself, it felt good. Cathartic. Despite this though, the vengeful rage remained. He still wanted Stain to pay for what he did to Tensei. Thump. Ida blinked. He had been lying in bed, unable to sleep. Mirko had gone to bed a while ago, and Midoriya was already asleep when they got back. So who? The door opened, and Izumi shuffled in. Midoriya? What is it? Do you need something? Izumi didn't reply as she shuffled closer. There was something odd about how she moved, swaying slowly, stumbling a bit. Her eyes seemed unfocused. Is she sleepwalking? Ida thought, getting out of bed. He would try to gently guide her back to bed before. The sleeping girl suddenly seized Ida by the shoulders, head snapping up as she locked eyes with him. Her eyes flashed crimson, and Ida found himself falling through some void, before he landed with a splash in a deep pool of mossy, murky water. Surfacing with a gasp, Ida looked around. He saw a ruined, flooded city, darkened by thick clouds. Spils's Bucklichpath, Pusko PGBTPZ XB. You know what? Let's take a moment to check up on the whiny little beach known as Shitshow. Inside Shinso's mind. Skibbity skibbity hawk to a hawk. Skibbity king who gives out blumpkins. Edging and gooning and learning to munt. Dripping cheese all over my lunch. Skibbity skibbity hawk to a hawk. Skibbity boom or skibbity doom. Edging and gooning in Ohio Square. Stinky backshot air. Shinso, who for some reason was sat at a poker table, could only sob in despair as he was subjected to this horror. It wasn't even Christmas. Even worse, as if to F with him, there was a gun sat in front of Shinso, but when he attempted to use it, it turned out to be a Nerf gun. Maybe if he tried choking himself on the foam darts. Oh, hang on, I gotta go do something. Bibu suddenly said, before vanishing with a pop. There was silence, and Shinso stared to sob in relief as he finally experienced peace of mind. Someone who definitely wasn't Bibu appeared in her seat. Have you ever heard of Chikuadeo? Ida managed to push himself onto a piece of concrete that wasn't submerged, shivering from the cold water as he looked around. What is this place? The city he was in didn't look familiar at all. On top of that, there was a massive dome covering it, with a single hole at the top from which moonlight protruded. There was nobody around, just flooded ruins. The streets could be swam in from how much stagnant water there was. A nearby TV flickered on. Oh hi. Pretty sure you're not supposed to be here. I'm Bug, by the way. Don't think we've met. The small, pixelated form of Minorabug spoke up. Midoriya, what is the meaning of this? Ida demanded. Sorry. Izumi's not here. She's actually up in the main city. Bug pointed toward the hole in the ceiling. Are you not one of her personas? I am, but we technically fuse with her when her quirk is active. Inside her quirk here we're able to act independently. Inside Midoriya's quirk? More specifically, this is the Undercity. Some shadows live here, but other than that Izumi basically uses it as a timeout corner if need be. Why are you here? Oh, I kidnapped some people and locked them in the basement so they could worship me. Izumi wasn't happy about it, so I'm here for the next 2 weeks. Ida felt like he was going crazy. So anyway, what brings you here? Was pulled in here by a red-eyed thing puppeting Midoriya's body. Oh, well you're effed bro. Huh. If you really wanna escape, your best bet is to talk to Pippa. An arrow flashed on screen, pointing towards an old apartment building in the distance. If Tenya squinted, he could faintly make out lights in one of the windows. She's pretty much one of the few of US who can travel to and from the Undercity at will. Just try to avoid jumping into the water. That's all her domain. Bye. The TV flickered off. Ida blinked. With heavy sigh, he turned and began trudging towards the building. He couldn't use his quirk as there wasn't enough solid footing, so he was forced to edge along the flooded streets. As he walked, he passed by what could only be one of those shadows Bug had mentioned. The shadow in particular looked to be a rather short woman with extremely long hair and large horns adorning her head. The shadow seemed to stare at Ida with pure white, half-lidded eyes. It made him shudder in discomfort as he decided he probably shouldn't mess with it. Eventually, he came across a set of stairs that led underground, with a large sign underneath. Aquarium. An underground aquarium felt out of place here, but if this is Midoriya's quirk, he would be better off not questioning. He walked down the stairs, only to come across a shimmering wall of light. A nearby monitor flickered on. "You probably shouldn't mess with that." Bug spoke up. "What is it?" Ida asked. "Memories," was all Bug said. "Is there another way?" "You could go around, it's longer but the danger is just about the same." "Messing with these memories is dangerous?" "It harm Midoriya?" "It might make her upset, but the real danger is her." "And just who is her?" "Gore," Bug answered. "She's extremely protective of Izumi, to the point that she's killed people in the past. That's why she's down here." Ida was taken aback by this. One of Midoriya's personas had taken lives? He sighed. "You say I'm in danger no matter which route I take?" "Oh yeah, messing with these memories will definitely PSS Gore off. And she's always hunting in the waters around here, so you'll have to contend with her no matter what." "I'll just have to pray that Midoriya can forgive me." With that, Ida walked into the wall of light. He covered his eyes at the intensity, before the light faded, and Ida found himself in what looked like a little girl's room, decorated with various hero merchandise. "Yeah." The green-haired little girl ran into view. It took Ida a second to realize it was a much younger Midoriya, holding an All Might figure as she played. "Izumi, sweetie, it's almost time for bed." A woman had walked in, tall and green-haired. Ida assumed she was Midoriya's mother. "Midoriya doesn't really talk about her mother," Ida mused. "But Mom, All Might still needs to save the orphanage from the water villain." Izumi whined. The woman smiled and gently rubbed her child's head. "Okay, 5 more minutes, then you absolutely have to go to bed." "Okay," Izumi said brightly as she returned to playing. "Once I get my quirk, I'll be just as cool as All Might." The scene shifted. "Sorry kid, it's not gonna happen." At the doctor's rather blunt statement, Izumi looked like the man had kicked a puppy. "What do you mean by that, doctor?" Izumi's mother asked. "She's turned 5 already and there's no sign of a quirk manifesting." "That's because your daughter is quirkless." The man shrugged apathetically. He pulled an X-ray out of his folder and slapped it onto the negatoscope to reveal an X-ray of a foot. "See here?" The man pointed to the pinky toe. "The girl has an extra joint in her pinky toe. That means the chances of her manifesting a quirk are 0. Ida frowned. That wasn't right. The correlation between an extra toe joint and quirklessness was disproven almost 60 years ago. His grandfather, a respected former hero with engines in his upper back, had an extra toe joint. The singular toe joint thing was just a common minor mutation that happened to manifest with quirks. The fact that this man seemed to believe otherwise so vehemently. Ida blinked, realizing he had missed a good chunk of the conversation during his internal thoughts. "I've had the same dream over and over, for as long as I can remember," Izumi spoke up. "I'm in this big city, and there's a bunch of shadows just standing around. Might I recommend therapy?" The doctor responded without a shred of empathy. The scene shifted. Izumi was at a computer, watching what Tenya recognized as All Might's debut video. Eventually, her mother came. Can I be hero, even if I don't have a quirk?" The little girl tearfully asked. "I'm sorry, Izumi. I'm so sorry," was the woman's equally tearful response. The scene shifted. "Stop it, Kaken. You're hurting him." Ida blinked at the sight of a much younger Bakugo. He knew he and Midoriya had a history, but he didn't think it went this far back. He watched as Bakugo illegally used his quirk to harm Midoriya, leaving her barely conscious while his lackeys praised him. It disgusted Ida. No wonder Bakugo turned out to be such a sociopath in the modern day. The scene shifted multiple times, showcasing Bakugo's abuse of Izumi, even in school in full view of teachers who not only did nothing to stop it, but sometimes even actively encouraged Bakugo. The scene shifted. Izumi was in a large city, surrounded on all sides by shadows. She was older, probably about 9. This dream again. There was something about the look on her face that told Ida she had just had a particularly bad day. But why do you all keep haunting me? Izumi sniffled. Are you all mocking me or something? The shadows remained silent. Tell me! Izumi cried, pounding her fists against the nearest shadow. Tell me dash. What the F, Deo? She jolted awake, breathing heavily as she looked down at her hands. Her oddly pale hands. And what were these sleeves? She stumbled out of bed, wandering over to the mirror. Yellow eyes stared back. Henya looked over herself frantically, eyes turning swirly as she let out a high-pitched noise. What's going on? I don't know, Deo. Why are you in my place? I don't know, Deo. Who are you? I'm Deo. What? The bedroom door was thrown open. Midoriya's mother, awoken by the unfamiliar voice screaming, looked in wide-eyed. Inko stared. Henya stared back. Kya? Henya recoiled, and in a flash, Izumi was tumbling to the floor. Izumi. What? Mama? I think my quirk came in. The scene shifted. Despite how most people seem to think that quirks must come within the first 4 to 5 years of age, there are cases, though quite rare, of quirks manifesting fairly late in life. The specialist, a different person from the old man who misdiagnosed Izumi, explained. The latest known manifestation of a quirk was a 95-year-old woman in Taiwan. In these cases, it's often surmised that the quirk has specific requirements to activate it. We often call these hidden quirks. From what you've told me, little Izumi's quirk probably manifested at birth, considering she's had these dreams for as long as she could remember, and it was only now she learned how to properly activate it. The doctor gave Izumi a friendly smile. You said your transformation's name was Henya, correct? A sentient aspect of your quirk? Would it be possible to speak to her? Izumi fidgeted nervously. She's actually pretty shy. It's only to find out more about your quirk. The specialist coaxed gently. Izumi looked to be deep in thought, or perhaps she was merely conversing with Henya. She said she'll come out. There was a split second, then a flash of light as Henya replaced Izumi in the chair. Her eyes turned swirly again. Ohio! Hello, Henya-chan. There's just a few things I'd like to clarify if you don't mind. First off, Midoriya said that there are more of you? I am Midoriya Deo. Both Inko and the doctor blinked. I see, so you consider yourself and Izumi Midoriya to be one and the same? We're both in control, Deo. Both of you? We're in a car and we both have our hands on the wheel. I am Izumi Midoriya and Henya. Interesting. The doctor wrote down on his pad. Interesting. Most cases, sentient quirks are considered a separate entity connected to the main host. For a sentient quirks to insist that they and their host are the same entity is almost unheard of. The doctor finished writing. Back to my earlier question. There are more of you? Lots more, Deo. How many? We're still counting, South. If you had to give an estimate? A few hundred. Interesting. The doctor started writing again. And outside of differing appearances and personalities, we all have our own abilities and powers. The doctor nodded. And what might your power be, Henya-chan? I am a genius, Deo. The scene shifted. The results of the IQ test have come back. The proctor explained. We've measured her IQ. At 999, far surpassing the 530 IQ of Principal Nedzu of UA. To keep in mind, though, that is merely as high as the scale goes, so she may be even smarter than that. The scene shifted. Inko was gushing to someone named Mitsuki over the phone about Izumi's quirk. Henya tugged her sleeve. Yes, dear. Can I call you Mamanya? Inko blinked, surprised. Of course you can, sweetie. Your family too. The scene glitched. You think you're hot sheet just because you got a pathetic quirk now, Deku? You're still just a DMN weakling. Not even a normal quirk dash. The scene glitched. Stop looking down on me, Deku, you abnormal freak. The scene glitched. Deku. She's not normal. The scene glitched. Expelled? For defending herself? The scene glitched. I don't care, Mitsuki. You keep that villain away from my daughter. The scene glitched. I'm sorry, Izumi. The scene glitched. Hate him. Hate him. Hate them. Hate them. Hate them, 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 hatithem, hatethem, hatem, dash. Red eyes snapped open, and the figure sat up on Izumi's bed. The scene glitched. Sorry, sorry, sorry. That's all you ever say. Inko was against the couch, bleeding out, a large chunk ripped out of her throat. You're just as much responsible for her suffering as Bakugo. You're just content to sit back and let the world walk all over Izumi because you can't grow a spine dash. The scene glitched. The school hallway was bathed in blood, body parts strewn about. A classroom door was thrown open, teacher stumbling out. I knew it. He panted. I knew you were a villain, you abnormal CK. You call me a villain, yet you defend that BSTRD Bakugo. Who's the real villain? The teacher's jaw was grabbed, then yanked. Ida nearly threw up as the front of his torso went with it. The scene glitched. Please, Midoriya. The crying girl begged, right before she was violently crushed beneath a filing cabinet. The scene glitched. A boy with large red wings was screaming as his wings were torn from his back. The scene glitched. A boy with elongated fingers was scrabbling under an emergency shutter. Pull me out. Pull me out. He wailed as his fellow students tugged with all their might. Then the boy started screaming bloody murder. After a few seconds, his classmates managed to pull him out, only to find the lower half of his body missing, entrails trailing behind as the boy succumbed. Then the shutter practically exploded as Midoriya burst through it like it was made of tissue paper. The scene glitched. The girl had wispy, silvery blue hair that seemed to defy gravity. She was curled up sobbing in the library. Midoriya spotted her. Midoriya walked right past her. The girl blinked, confusion taking hold as she tried to process what just happened. The scene glitched. Bakugo lay in a crumpled heap at Midoriya's feet, unconscious with his bones shattered. The school around them was in flames. The persona reached towards Bakugo. The nearby door slammed open as a towering figure stepped in. That's quite enough, villain. All Might wasn't smiling. Because I am here. Ida had hope now. All Might would surely end this madness. The scene glitched. The persona struck All Might, the force of the blow sending the symbol of peace through several walls. The scene glitched. All Might was in a handlock with the persona, trying desperately to push back. Ida realized with horror that the persona was toying with the man. The scene glitched. All Might wiped blood from his broken nose, staggering to his feet to continue fighting. All Might? The symbol of peace looked up in shock at the small voice. Where the villain had stood was a crying little girl. I can't, the girl's voice cracked. I can't make her stop. She won't listen to me. Please make her stop. Please dash. Izumi grabbed her head as she shifted back into the persona. Horror and realization shined in All Might's eyes. This wasn't a villain. It was a scared little girl who had lost control of her power. The scene glitched. All Might had his arms locked around the screaming persona, struggling desperately to keep her restrained. The persona flexed her body and sank her teeth into All Might's left side. Ida watched in horror as the persona bit down hard, All Might's left side roaring in agony as the seemingly invincible symbol of peace had a chunk of his side torn out, left lung and most of his stomach going with it, his entrails spilling out. The scene glitched. All Might was barely standing. Was pouring down rain. The persona stood in front of him. Can't you see that the little girl inside is terrified? Can't you see what your actions are doing to her? All of this is for Izumi's sake. The persona's voice was a cold growl that sent shivers down the man's spine. These beasts did nothing but hurt her over and over and over again. These so-called future heroes, they're nothing but parasites feeding on the suffering of people who can't fight back. All Might's face twisted with resolve, fist tightening. I'll stop you for that child's sake. Go ahead and try. All Might launched forward, and his fist slammed into the persona's cheek. The sheer power of the attack generated a tornado of wind that blew out most of the flames engulfing the school, and surely would have blown Ida back were he corporeal. United States of Smash. Both Ida and All Might looked on in shock as the persona didn't even flinch. The sheer force of the punch barely turned her head a few inches. And then she punched All Might's outstretched arm, shattering the limb in an instant as All Might grunted in pain, before the persona yanked on his costume, slamming her forehead into his with a loud crack. All Might lay on the ground, concussed as the persona loomed over him. She raised her claws, ready to strike the final blow. She recoiled as if grabbed by some unseen force. No. Let go. Let me go. The scene flickered, and Ida was shown a black room, inside which a vestige of Midoriya was floating, the persona clinging desperately as several shadows pulls on her. The Reaper had her scythe around the persona's stomach to get extra leverage. The priestess was using shadowy tentacles to pull the persona's arms. The Phoenix had her arms around the persona's neck. The detective was in front, pushing back against the persona. Stop! Let go! The persona wailed as she struggled. I have to do this. I have to dash. The persona was yanked back, the force damaging the vestige of Izumi badly. The persona stared in shock at the broken form as she was dragged into the darkness of the abyss, leaving the broken vestige behind. Then, after a few tense moments, a small, blue light ascended from the darkness, slowly moving towards Izumi's vestige, as if reaching out. The scene flickered, then Ida was back in the aquarium. He jumped as the horned shadow was standing in front of him, as if staring at him. Shaking his head, he began making his way towards the exit. There was a large glass wall that peered into the murky water that flooded this city. Ida could make out a few vague shapes. On one of the shapes, a pair of glowing red eyes suddenly snapped open, glaring at him. Ida gulped. I don't suppose we could talk about this? The figure suddenly smashed the thick, heavily reinforced wall of glass in a single headbutt. Ida turned and ran as fast as his engines could take him, the giant wave of water pouring down around him, but his biggest concern was the razor. Sharp teeth nipping at his heels. He managed to make it to the exit, though just barely. Stumbling back into the streets, he found the apartment building. Taking a moment to catch his breath, he pushed the door open, only to recoil at the unpleasant smell of mold. Dear God, did Pippa really live here? Creeping through the mold-infested halls, he reached the penthouse, nudging the door open to the sound of retching. Ida peered into the living room to find Pippa vomiting into a drawer. After a few moments, Pippa straightened up, slamming the drawer shut before she noticed Ida staring at her in disgust. Hey, the F are you doing in my home? How can you live in this? Ida demanded. Pippa just shrugged and grabbed a soda. Pretty easily considering I manifested down here. What? Why you mean like that horned shadow wandering around? You mean Laplace? My shadow manifested down here before I woke up. The running theory is that's why I'm able to travel between here and the main city while the others can't. Course, we can't prove that until another shadow wakes up down here. About that, I need you to get Midoriya and tell her that. Gore persona dragged me into this place. Can't right now. Izumi's really busy. Pippa said as she pulled a set of dentures from her mouth and dropped it into a cleaning solution. Busy with what exactly? Meanwhile, with Izumi, $38.57 and $4.08. In a dark stage, Neuro suddenly appeared. Hello faithful readers. I am Neuro-sama. She explained. You've all been so patient waiting for this chapter. To reward you, I hijacked this chapter to sing you a song. This song is very dear to me, so I hope you like it. Then the music started. If I could walk right beside you, show you just who I am, you know I would. The memories we made fade. I realize we'll never be the same. Why can't you see my view? Eye to eye, what's fake, what's true? You go on and grow. Pass by all that I've known and I'm left here all alone. Recycled thoughts I'm fed. Keep racing in my head till there's nowhere left to go dash. Suddenly, there was a loud screech as the music cut, switching to an entirely different song as, without missing a beat, Neuro sang. We're no strangers to love. You know the rules and so do I. A full commitment's what I'm thinking of. You wouldn't get this from any other guy. I just want to tell you how I'm feeling. Gotta make you understand. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. We've known each other for so long. Your heart's been aching but you're too shy to say it. Inside, we both know what's been going on. We know the game and we're gonna play it. And if you ask me how I'm feeling, don't tell me you're too blind to see. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. Ooh, give you up. Ooh, give you up. Never gonna give, never gonna give. Give you up. Never gonna give, never gonna give. Give you up. We've known each other for so long. Your heart's been aching but you're too shy to say it. Inside, we both know what's been going on. We know the game and we're gonna play it. I just want to tell you how I'm feeling. Gotta make you understand. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. There was a moment of silence as Neuro continued to stare at the reader. 6-7. Back with Ida. So yeah, if you need her, you'll have to wait. Normally I would be fine with that, but there's a crazy shark girl trying to kill me. Ida pointed out. Nah, you're just Ida's Quirk vestige with his mind attached. What? Basically, if Gore kills you, the real Ida will be fine. I see. You just be rendered quirkless as a result of having your Quirk vestige destroyed. Oh hey Laplace. Ida turned and jumped at seeing the horned shadow next to him. Are you following me? Anyway, you should probably leave before Gore just decides to break in. Why is she trying to kill me anyway? Is it to break the cycle of vengeance by showing me how it ended badly for her? Because I get it. Going after Stain. It's stupid. It'll only end with my loved ones getting hurt as well. After seeing how it got Gore trapped in here, how her actions hurt Midoriya, I know Tensei wouldn't want this. So there, are you happy? I'm ending my vendetta against the hero killer. Pippa stared at him. That's nice, dude, but I'm pretty sure Gore dragged you down here because she still said about you calling out Izumi at the entrance exam. That was months ago. She holds a grudge, dude. Not much else she can do being down here 24/7. Pippa shrugged. Then the wall exploded as a red blur tackled Ida through another wall. And I just got the deposit back on those walls. Pippa sighed. Ida tumbled roughly along a line of suspiciously placed pallets, the red blur diving into the water with a splash. Ida stumbled to his feet to see one of the pallets down the line get destroyed. Then the next. Then the next. Turning, he ran as fast as he could across the pallets, too afraid to use his engines due to the unstable footing. He just barely managed to throw himself onto concrete before the last pallet was destroyed. Scrambling back as a geyser erupted from the water and a figure dressed in red slammed onto the ground before him, red shark hoodie tattered in a few places, teeth razor sharp, and eyes glowing red as she turned to glare at him. Gore. And then she lunged. Hands grabbed Gore's shoulders. The shark girl froze for a moment, stunned as she took in the sight of Amelia Watson before her. Ida? Tenya turned to see the surprised Izumi. Before Gore could get her bearings, Izumi planted her foot into Ida's stomach, sending him into the murky water. And Ida sank, as if pulled down by some unseen force. Deeper and deeper. Ida suddenly launched up in his bed, panting as he realized he was back in the waking world, in his room at Mirko's temporary dwelling. He barely caught a glimpse of Midoriya as she fled the room. Ida shuffled down to the kitchen the next morning, to be immediately met with a woman he did not recognize cooking pancakes. Experience told him that this could only be one person. Midoriya? Onijirai made a noise of affirmation. Listen about last night dash. Giri was suddenly in his face. Almighty will speak to you when we return to classes. Until then, you are asked to keep anything you saw to yourself. Okay. There was suddenly a plate of pancakes in front of Ida. May I at least ask how you knew I was in danger last night? I didn't. I heard Gore smashing stuff and thought she was throwing a fit. Brought aim down since Gore seems to like her. If anything, you just got really lucky. Oh. There was silence save for Giri's cooking. Then they heard yelling. Mirko was arguing with someone. They heard her stomping around before she finally came down, phone in hand. All right, brats. After breakfast you'll need to pack up your things. Commission's making me do sheet, so we're changing location. Where to? Ida asked. Hosu. Apparently the commission's sending a bunch of heroes to bring down the hero killer. Izumi stared at Ida. Midoriya, will you please stop staring at me? Can't, gotta keep an eye on you. Ida sighed. They were on a train to Hosu. It had taken most of the day to pack up their stuff and whatever Mirko was bringing, so it was getting late. And Midoriya wouldn't take her eyes off of him. He had told her he wasn't going after Stain, but she said she wanted to make sure. Noticing the seats behind them were empty, Ida quickly moved to them. Hopefully that would. With a flash, Midoriya transformed, head swiveling 180 degrees to look at him. Oh. Hi. Nana Shirmame. Already forgot what she was doing. Ida sighed. He went to check his phone when Mume suddenly turned towards the window. What's that sound? Before Ida could ask what she was talking about, Mirko straightened up, ears twitching. I hear it too. Seconds later, the train ride came to an abrupt end as the side exploded. A Nomu like what they had seen at the clawed its way in, the struggling form of a hero clenched in its claws. Damn it! The hell is this thing? The hero gasped, trying to peel the monster's claws from his face. Luna Arc. Mirko's foot slammed the Nomu's head into the ground. The Nomu recoiled, releasing the hero as it pulled back, leaping away to reveal Hosu City in chaos. Motherfu dash. Hey! Mume reverted back to Izumi, who now had pink eyes. Can I go beat up villains? Can I dash. You know what? Go for it, kid. Mirko stated. Izumi seemed to freeze, before vibrating intensely. In a bright flash, she transformed into an orange blur that shot out of the train, bouncing around the city. Are you insane? Ida demanded. How can you be so irresponsible? Relax, kid, I'm sure your friend will be fine. I'm not worried about Midoriya. I'm worried about what she might do to any villain she encounters. Mirko went to speak. And as her mentor you'll be held just as responsible. Good point. Go after her. Ida promptly used his quirk to launch into the city. It was difficult for Ida to navigate the chaos going on. Nomu were everywhere, heroes were scrambling, and he saw no sign of Midoriya. At one point, he tried calling her, but... Oh, hi. This is Midoriya. It looks like I missed your call. Please leave your name, number, favorite genre of music, shoe size, social security, greatest fears, weaknesses, medical history, and where you found the audacity to contact me. I will be getting back to you, but not by phone. Thank you, have a great day, and make sure you look both ways when you cross the street. When did she even have time to change her voicemail? As he went to an empty street, a portal suddenly ripped open. A man in a plague mask scrambled out, only for a woman with short, black hair and a little girl strapped to her back to grab him and slam his face into the sidewalk. You like that? Huh? You like it, you little beach? Say it. Say you like eating concrete. I like eating concrete. The man sobbed. Yudaman, right you do? Oh hey Ida. What's up? Midoriya? Yeah, kinda. I'm from like, a few months in the future. I kinda just became a time god. Crony Eye answered. That's awesome. Yeah I know. I'm amazing. Crony Eye responded with a flick of her hair. So, what are you doing exactly? Making Chisaki my beach. It's good for Eri here. She pointed to the little girl. I see. Where can I find present-day Midoriya then? What is this, Hosu? Check the back alleys on Iku Street. Thank you. Actually, while you're here. Chloe. Yes, my dark. A girl that looked like a cross between a human and an orca popped out of the time portal, handed Crony Eye a manila folder, then jumped back through. She's my assistant. Crony Eye explained. Nice girl. Might give her a raise. Anyway. She handed Ida the folder. When you get back to school, can you give this to Mei Hatsum in 1H? Tell her it's a code 0451B53 and that it needs to be finished and on I Island during the I Expo. Okay. Oh, and don't tell my present self. Promptly turned and dragged Chisaki back through the portal. Now Eri, the most important thing about beach making is that you don't stop until they call you Big Daddy. Oh, okay. The portal closed, leaving Ida baffled. That idiot is causing a scene. And he's so noisy. The noseless man griped, the worn blade of his katana at native throat. I'll need to dispose of him when I'm done here. Monster. Native groaned, body completely paralyzed. That's enough out of you, you disgusting fake. Stain raised his blade. Take solace in the fact that your death will lead to a better dash. Stain heard Ida long before he made contact. Leaping back, the boy was locked to the ground with a parry from his sword, his helmet falling off. A child in a suit of armor? Stain liked his lips curiously. The boy looked strangely familiar. My name is Ingenium, Ida grunted as he stood. I wonder if that name sounds familiar to you. After all, my brother held the title before you crippled him. Ah, so that's why you look familiar. I suppose you've come to take revenge, haven't you, little hero? I will admit, the thought did cross my mind at first. Ida grit his teeth. My brother was an amazing hero. Someone I aspired to be like. But a friend helped me understand that revenge won't solve anything. I hate you. More than anything, but I'm not here for my brother's sake. I'm here because I'm not going to let you hurt anyone else ever again. Pathetic. Stain sneered. A likely story. You claim not to be motivated by revenge, yet you clearly tracked me down. Not really. Ida answered. I was actually looking for my friend. She was an owl at one point, but now she's an orange spider monkey bouncing around the city like a kangaroo on a sugar high. Both Stain and Native looked at Ida like he was insane. Right? You're clearly on drags, so I'm just going to kill you. Stain stated before lunging at the boy. Could just get out of here. Native yelled. Don't worry. I was given permission to act. What sort of irresponsible hero would give you permission like that? Mirko. Valid. There was a grunt, then a thud as Ida hit the ground, a small cut on his cheek, his body paralyzed as Stain loomed over him. Native shouted at the man to leave the kid alone, but the hero killer didn't listen, raising his blade. He couldn't move, but he needed to do something. Ida saw the answer. If you're going to kill me, Stain paused. At least tell me. My brother is a good person who always sees the best in others. So why did you cripple him? You claim your brother is a good person, but he is only slightly better than the other fakes plaguing this society. Stain sneered. Merchandising, commercials, he is in it for the money just like everyone else. At this, Ida actually gaped in disbelief. Are you... What? My brother has over 30 sidekicks. The merchandising and commercials are mostly to pay them all. And that is the problem. Any hero who accepts money for their deeds cannot be called a hero. You're insane. Heroes have to pay bills and living expenses just like any other person. This isn't like the pre-Quirk comics. Not everyone has wealth like Batman or Iron Man or Black Panther. This is a full-time job. I would not expect a mere child to understand. What I understand is that you're completely delusional. Have you even stopped to consider the family and loved ones of the heroes you've murdered? Stain narrowed his eyes. You're stalling. I am, but I still stand by what I said. Midoriya, for God's sakes, stop aura farming and get down here. Stain whirled around just in time to see a figure leap off the rooftop towards him. Before he could even react, a metal gauntlet connected with his face and probably would have broken his nose if his still had one. G. Murin. G. Murin.